Chapter 480, Gamble. Yuman Lu fell silent. The things that Ling Tian had pointed out had struck him at his weakest points. Ling Tian's words were undeniably extremely nasty to his ears, and Yuman Lu almost passed out from anger after hearing them. He was angered to the point his body trembled and steam could be seen coming out from his head. However, he didn't have any words to retort what Ling Tian had just said. Yuman Lu had always placed all of his efforts into fighting for hegemony in the world. However, he had never thought about the problem of how many years he would be able to rule over the world after gaining hegemony of it. If you only want to become an emperor, that isn't impossible at the moment, Ling Tian said slowly and in a heartless manner. He then lifted up his finger and pointed at Yuman Lu before pointing at himself. Both of us can definitely do so right now. We can ascend to the throne anytime we wish and become the ruler of an empire. Even at this moment, we are no different from being the rulers of our respective empires. However, is being the ruler of a small empire sufficient to satisfy our appetites? What we want and what we are chasing after is to rule over the whole world. Ling Tian said with resolution, at the very least, we must rule over the heavenly star continent. Thus, I wanted to wait for you here today to have a conversation with you. Ling Tian gave an amiable smile that looked extremely crafty but yet adorable. I shall accept this conversation of yours. Yuman Lu said slowly with a tinge of fatigue, can you finally say what you truly want? After his initial anger, Yuman Lu had begun considering what Ling Tian had said with deep contemplation. While Ling Tian's words were extremely nasty, Yuman Lu had no choice but to admit that Ling Tian's words made a great deal of sense. Thus, Yuman Lu suppressed the anger in his heart so that he could also learn something from Ling Tian's words. So far, the things that he had heard were not something that he was interested in. However, the more this was the case, the more Yuman Lu was wary towards Ling Tian. Currently, Yuman Lu couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear towards this teen in front of him. That's right, fear. Such a feeling made Yuman Lu extremely frustrated in his heart. Apart from that one person from many years ago, he had never felt fear towards anyone else. Before we begin talking, let me give you a piece of advice, Ling Tian said with a cunning smile. From the start until now, his negotiation with Yuman Lu had been pretty successful. Now, it was the time for him to give Yuman Lu a condition that he wouldn't be able to resist. Ling Tian was certain that there wasn't a reason for Yuman Lu to reject his condition. Since his goal had already been reached, Ling Tian was no longer anxious. What advice? Do you think any advice would be able to move me? Yuman Lu looked extremely fatigued, but his eyes were filled with malevolence and his tone had also turned soft. At this moment, Yuman Lu looked no different from a fatigued old man. I recommend that you quickly find a few more wives and have them give birth to a son for you, Ling Tian said with seriousness. I heard that your eldest son had passed on already, and as for your two remaining sons, I have previously met both of them. In all honesty, they are truly bad cement that can't hold up a wall and dog meat that can't be served at a banquet. I think that every time you think about how the world that you will reign over in future will be ruined by them, you will lose all of your motivation. Furthermore, if you don't make any plans now, in just a few years it will be too late to do so. At that time, even if you have the heart to do so, you will no longer have the ability to do so. Ling Tian chuckled after saying in a straightforward manner. In this world, he was probably the only person who would dare to talk to Yuman Lu as such without fearing Yuman Lu's anger. Thus, Ling Tian couldn't help but be filled with delight as he looked at Yuman Lu with a look of satisfaction, looking forward to the exasperated look on Yuman Lu's face. Asking the family head of the #1 family to take in a concubine. Only Ling Tian would have the guts to say such crazy words. However, Ling Tian only had the chance to let out 2 laughs before being unable to continue laughing. Not only did Yuman Lu in front of him not have any anger, instead he looked as though he was seriously considering the matter with a look of temptation. At the same time, he even revealed a slight smile. "FK. I was only making a casual remark. You can't be truly tempted, right?" Ling Tian pointed at Yu Man Lu with a look of incredulity. "You are actually not angry? I was asking you to. Weren't your words the truth? Why is there a need for me to be angry?" Yu Man Lu suddenly raised his head. "Could it be that if I were to blow my top at this moment, both of my sons will be enlightened? Would they be able to become like you?" Yu Man Lu said calmly, "As for your advice, it is truly a good one and I will consider the matter. After all, I have to consider the matter while I am still able." Yu Man Lu nodded his head. "Truly." "What the?" Ling Tian was completely speechless. "An old cow like you is really going to go and eat young grass? Are you not afraid of the world poking fun at your backbone? Are you not afraid?" "My goodness." Ling Tian was completely speechless. Yu Man Lu said calmly, "Not only do I accept your advice, I have to thank you for it. This advice of yours is truly great. Even if I have the world in my hand, I can't stop a degenerate son from losing it in a single night in a bed. I have been thinking about this matter for a very long time already, and after last night's affair, even you have witnessed how my sons aren't worthy of inheriting my accomplishments." A cold light glowed in Yu Man Lu's eyes. "This is their nature and it is impossible to change them. Thus, I can accept this advice of yours, and I have a good 20 years to groom an outstanding successor. Am I right?" Ling Tian slapped his forehead and was completely speechless. He even had the urge to slap his own lips for their ridiculous words. The negotiation between the both of them was already going his way and he wanted to have some fun by teasing Yu Man Lu. However, he never imagined that he would dig a hole for himself, and a casual word of advice actually gave Yu Man Lu a huge hint. The matter that happened last night had undoubtedly given Yu Man Lu an extremely huge blow. Especially when he compared Ling Tian's excellence to his son's worthlessness, Yu Man Lu couldn't help but be filled with a strong sense of defeat. It wouldn't matter if they were profligates in the past. However, they had actually attempted to kill each other and resorted to unscrupulous means. This was something that Yu Man Lu was unable to accept. When he had first heard Ling Tian's advice, Yu Man Lu almost erupted with rage. However, as Ling Tian's words grew nastier, Yu Man Lu also felt that they made more and more sense. "I have yet to turn 50 and I still have the heart and strength to fight for hegemony and groom a new successor." Looking at Ling Tian, Yu Man Lu smiled. "To ensure that the 1,000-year-old heritage of the Yu family can shine in this old man's hands and be handed down to the future generations, so what if I become the laughingstock of the world? Could it be that the world would curse me less if I don't do this matter? Furthermore, as long as a man has the heart and the strength, why can't I find a wife and have some children?" Ling Tian rolled his eyes and said weakly, "Giving birth to a son isn't the main point. The main point is that you will have to groom him properly. If you end up grooming another profligate son, it would be better for you to not give birth to anyone. This conversation with you today is truly a wonderful affair. I have truly gained some wonderful advice." Yu Man Lu agreed with a bright smile. "This old man agrees that the greatest mistake in my life was to not discipline those few brats properly. If I have more children in the future, I will definitely not make the same mistake." He then looked at Ling Tian with a smile. "You don't have to worry about that, I will definitely take care of the matter properly." "What am I worried about? FK?" Ling Tian couldn't help but grow depressed and had the urge to bang his head on the wall. "What did I just say? Did I give him good advice? Is he the fool or am I the fool?" Although he was thinking that in his heart, Ling Tian also couldn't help but feel admiration towards Yu Man Lu. In the world, how many of the leading figures would be able to listen to someone else's advice with such humility? Even though he was obviously trying to play Yu Man Lu as a fool, Yu Man Lu was still able to recognize his flaw and admit it. Furthermore, he was admitting his flaws to his biggest enemy. Yu Man Lu's breadth of mind made Ling Tian's heart turn chilly. In Ling Tian's heart, Yuman Lu's position was also being constantly altered. Yuman Lu looked at Ling Tian with a cold gaze. "What else do you want to say? Why not let the cat out of the bag? I don't believe that you only have this single advice, right?" Ling Tian revealed a smile of admiration and also adjusted his emotions before saying, "The battle between the Yu and Shui family is starting in less than 2.5 years, right?" Yuman Lu smiled. "This is something that the whole world knows. Is there anything special about that?" Ling Tian said in a low voice, "My deal with justice only lasts for half a year and the deal is almost half done. If I die unluckily in the hands of justice, then you can just ignore all of my words. But if I am lucky enough to be alive, I hope to have a deal with family head Yu." "What deal?" Yuman Lu could already guess what Ling Tian was about to say and revealed a trace of interest. Ling Tian smiled. "I believe that family head Yu wouldn't be willing to spend years or even decades to fight wars over the continent, right? This advice of mine would be to reduce the time it takes for us to capture the continent to 10 years or less." Ling Tian threw out his bait. He wasn't afraid that Yuman Lu wouldn't take the bait. He was less than 20 and had plenty of time to wait and waste. However, Yuman Lu didn't have that time. "What's your plan?" Yuman Lu's gaze turned sharp. Ling Tian raised 5 fingers and waved them around. 5 years. For the next 5 years, I will not find trouble with you and you are not to seek trouble with me either. Both of us, one north and one south or one east and one west, will split the continent into 2. Half of it will go to me, and the other half will go to you. At that time, both of our families will face each other in an all-out war and the continent will belong to the victor. As for who should be in charge of which half, you can be the one to decide that." Ling Tian chuckled, and rivers of blood could be seen in his eyes. However, if any party isn't able to complete their end of the deal, they will have to admit defeat and submit to the victor. Ling Tian's words were as though they were 2 kids having a little bet. "If you win, this glass ball will belong to you. If you lose, this glass ball will belong to me." It was that simple. Chapter 481, Crazy Stakes. Nonsense. How can fighting for hegemony over the world be treated as a child's game? Yuman Lu said with dissatisfaction. "The way I see it, this is no different from a game." Ling Tian smiled. "This is also the game most worthy for one to gamble his life on. Family head Yu, just speak what is on your mind. You are obviously tempted in your heart and this game is probably a little boring to you. After all, there is a big difference between the both of us. You pay attention to the outcome while I pay attention to the process. If that's the case, why don't we divide and conquer? We could sweep away all the obstructions in our respective territories, and we wouldn't need to be wary of each other. We would naturally speed up the process of conquering the world greatly. When the world is divided into 2, it would also be the time for it to be united into 1. At that time, it would be either you destroying me or me destroying you and the fate of the world can be decided easily. At the very least, it would be much better than us scheming against each other. If we were to drag matters on as such, while one of us may end up winning in the end, we would definitely require a huge amount of time to reach that outcome. If that's the case, things will be too boring. Furthermore, it is very likely that both of us will end up in mutual destruction and give the Zhou or other families the advantage. I believe that you aren't willing to witness such an outcome either, right?" Ling Tian sneered. "Take today for an example. While you may have the strength to kill me today, if I know that my death is certain, I would definitely go all out and you will be bedridden for half a year at least. You should be fully aware that this isn't a lie." Yuman Lu pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. He had to admit that Ling Tian truly had the ability to rival his strength. "If we were to have a life and death battle today, even if you were to emerge victorious, your Yu family will definitely suffer a loss in the battle with the Shui family. If that's the case, the Zhou family, which is the support of above heavens, will definitely gain the upper hand. At that time, your chance of ruling over the world would definitely be greatly reduced. Ling Tian said with a confident smile, thus, the both of us need to work together. My need for you is far lesser than your need for me. That is why I dared to wait for you here today. Ling Tian stood up and waved his hands. If the world is a huge game of chess, then the two of us would be the best chess players. If the world is a huge gambling table, then let the both of us bring our riches to the table. Ling Tian let out bright, unrestrained and maniacal laughter. It can be said that Ling Tian truly had a great grasp of Yu Man Lu's character. From the many reports that he had received on Yu Man Lu, it was obvious that he was an individual who was intoxicated with the allure of authority. Furthermore, he was an individual who truly had the strength to rule the world. Ling Tian's words were undoubtedly targeted at Yu Man Lu's character. In fact, Ling Tian's maniacal laughter at the very end had also stirred the ambition in Yu Man Lu's heart. At the same time, a sharp glow could be seen in Yu Man Lu's eyes. What a good gamble! What a good gamble with the world as the stakes! Yu Man Lu praised with his eagle-like eyes fixed on Ling Tian. Ling Tian, ever since you were 5 and stood out in sky bearing, I have sent someone to spy on you. Ling Tian was startled in his heart. 5? Did you have nothing else better to do but to care about a 5-year-old child? Are you mad? As your reputation grew nastier and nastier when you got older, my guard was truly lowered. Yu Man Lu let out a self-mocking laugh. When I heard about your profligate actions from my spies in sky bearing, it also made me extremely disappointed. Only 5 years later, when an unknown underground force sprouted out in sky bearing, with the head of the force being untraceable, did you attract my attention again. While there were a few different gangs on the surface, the leader behind the gangs was very well concealed. However, as long as one had the heart to investigate the matter, it was impossible to fool the eyes of a wise individual. After scrutinizing every incident clearly, I realized that these few gangs barely had any major conflicts. As such, I ordered my men to investigate who would have such an ability, but they were unable to come up with a conclusive conclusion. However, they managed to investigate something else. All the stories about young noble Ling Tian's profligate actions were spread by these few gangs. Furthermore, if one investigated those incidents, not a single trace of the incidents would be found. At that time, I knew that you were definitely related to the gangs in sky bearing. But at that time, until this scholarly meeting, I only thought that you were a gifted and bright child. Even if you had some means, it wasn't enough for me to pay any attention to you. However, only when the various families gathered at sky bearing did I place you on my list of dangerous figures. Yu Man Lu let out a heavy sigh. However, I only found out at this moment that you have already grown to become my greatest enemy. Even the Shui family cannot be compared to you in my heart. As for this bet that you have proposed, I honestly did not want to agree to it, but would rather kill you on the spot, even if I would have to pay an unbearable price. You are just far too dangerous, but because of the current situation, I have no choice but to agree to it. Ling Tian, I never imagined that you had researched my character to such a frightening degree. Yu Man Lu looked at Ling Tian and said with a heavy and solemn voice, I agree to your suggestion. There isn't a need to wait until 3 months later. I can agree to it right now. Yu Man Lu continued, if justice was able to kill you, how would you have been able to stay alive for the past 3 months? Since he wasn't able to kill you in the past 3 months, then it is no different from it being justice's loss. It is just that he isn't willing to admit it now. Yu Man Lu then said with a mocking sneer, to think that he chased after a 15-year-old child for 3 months and is still unable to kill the child. This justice is truly a laughingstock of the world. Ling Tian let out a chuckle. He never imagined that Yu Man Lu's confidence in him was even greater than his confidence in himself. However, Yu Man Lu had never faced justice in battle and didn't know just how frightening justice truly was. He then replied, According to what I know, it seems that family head Yu also wants my life, but you are also having a good conversation with me right now. In other words, Ling Tian was trying to point out that Yu Manlu had no rights to criticize justice. Furthermore, I only believe half of your previous words. Ling Tian raised his index finger and waved it around. You have been scheming against me for many years already, and is there a need for you to deny that? In sky-bearing, there is probably no lack of your men. Yu Manlu paused for a moment before laughing bitterly. He then suddenly said with frustration, could it be that you are lacking men in Bright Jade City? Ling Tian burst into bright laughter. As Yu Manlu looked at Ling Tian laughing heartily, he also joined in the laughter, and the both of them laughed without any restraint. An old fox and a little fox with ulterior motives of their own laughing so heartily together. However, just who would be able to have the last laugh? Let us go along with your suggestion. With the cold river as the divider, the south will belong to you and north will belong to me. How about that? Yu Manlu looked at Ling Tian and offered a suggestion. The Cold River was the biggest river in the heavenly star continent, which went from east to west and was only 100 miles north of Sky-bearing. Yu Manlu's suggestion was akin to cutting away half of Sky-bearing's territory that originally belonged to Ling Tian. While this suggestion of Yu Manlu's seemed extremely fair on the surface, it was greatly to his advantage. However, Ling Tian didn't grow angry. At this moment, he was at the losing end, and if Yu Manlu didn't make use of the opportunity to extort him, he wouldn't be Yu Manlu. Ling Tian responded with a chuckle, why don't we use the Bright Jade City as the divider? The north of the city would belong to you, and the south will belong to me. This suggestion of his was even more vicious, separating the core territory of the Yu family. Yu Manlu also smiled. His previous suggestion was only a probing one. He wanted to probe to see if Ling Tian would be willing to come to a compromise in such a situation. If Ling Tian immediately came to a compromise, it only meant that Ling Tian wasn't truly sincere in their cooperation or was even unworthy of cooperating with him. How could a ruler lacking in charisma and boldness be worthy of being a match for him? It was very likely that Yu Manlu would immediately strike out to kill Ling Tian, this unworthy opponent. Yu Manlu shook his head helplessly, I knew that you would disagree. You wouldn't be Ling Tian if you agreed. He then pointed towards the west, I have placed great effort in Western Han, and it can be said that half of Western Han already belongs to my Yu family. I will definitely not give it up, and there isn't any room for discussion. His calm tone made it seem as though he was illustrating a fact and not having a bargain. Ling Tian replied with a trace of mockery, that is only what you feel. When you truly need Western Han, you will realize that you have gained control of far less than half of the empire. In fact, you may not even be able to control 10% of the empire. When I said uniting the continent, I wasn't just referring to the other party submitting to you. Even if they were to submit completely to you, their strength wouldn't completely belong to you. You should understand what I mean, right? Yu Manlu's eyes widened. If that's the case, the next 5 years would definitely be extremely tough for us. Ling Tian let out an indifferent smile. That's right. Where would the motivation come from if there wasn't any pressure? He then raised his head and looked at Yu Manlu. The both of us are too used to scheming in the dark. We are used to hiding behind the scenes and causing storms with just our words. I do admit that such a feeling is extremely satisfying, but we cannot expect to rule over the world through schemes. Thus, we will have to use true strength this time. As Ling Tian said that, he thought about Li Zu's warning. While schemes would allow him to gain a slight upper hand, it wasn't the true method for him to rule over the world. If he wants the world to fully submit to him, he must come out in open and display true strength. Thinking about this, Ling Tian's mouth curled up into a proud smile. With regards to this, you have a slight disadvantage. Your Yu family is restricted by the Shui family, and there is still the restless Zhou family. Thus, I gave you the rights to decide the territorial divide. However, this does not mean that you can take the lion's share. This is something that you should be very clear of and also the most important part of our cooperation." Ling Tian's voice turned chilly. "If you want to become a fatty from a single bite, you have to first see if you have sufficient capacity. If you are greedy, you will be like a snake swallowing an elephant, dying because of bloating." Yuman Lu replied with a cold smirk of his own, and it was obvious that he agreed with what Ling Tian said. "If that's the case, let us use the Valley of Sobbing Spirits as the divider." That was originally the territorial borders between Skybearing and Western Han. "In 5 years, my Yu family will level Western Han, unite Northern Wei, destroy the Wu Empire and defeat the Shui family to unite half the continent. The rest would belong to you." The rest would naturally refer to Southern Zheng, Eastern Zhou, Skybearing and the number 1 financial magnate, the Zhou family. Apart from Skybearing already being in Ling Tian's control, Southern Zheng and Eastern Zhou were still completely intact. Furthermore, there was still the gigantic and mysterious Zhou family. Thus, Ling Tian's half of the continent was undeniably more challenging. Both of them had a point in common in that the empire where their family was located was already destroyed and they were truly the rulers of their respective territories. However, Bright Jade City was falling into pieces because of Ling Tian's schemes and Yuman Lu was undoubtedly at a loss. On the other hand, the experts of the Yu family stationed in Skybearing would definitely have some accomplishments and thus it was still considered fair. When Ling Tian proposed this bet to Yuman Lu, he had already expected Yuman Lu to make such a choice and was thus not surprised. After considering for a moment, Ling Tian said with a seemingly bitter smile, "You have too big of an advantage with such a divide. You must give me some compensation." "Go F King die. How did this daddy here not give you any compensation? The fact that I didn't take your life today is already the biggest compensation." Yuman Lu roared as he never expected that Ling Tian would be thick-skinned enough to ask him for compensations. He was angered to the point he began roaring with expletives. "Northern Wei is in a complete mess right now. Furthermore, the Shui family, Western Han and Wu Empire aren't easy to deal with either. Besides that, there is still a Moon Deity Empire and Lei Empire behind him. Aren't they your trump cards?" Yuman Lu cursed fiercely. "You're talking about uniting half the continent and not suppressing them. 5 years from now, if there is still another power independent of either of us, it would mean that party has lost. Even if the Moon Deity Empire is far away and detaches themselves from the continent, they still belong to the Heavenly Star continent, right? At that time, won't that be your excuse? This old man's difficulties are far greater than yours. However, the truth is that this young noble has helped you deal with the Shui family already. Since we are going to cooperate with each other, family head should not be talking about my life and death already." At the same time, Ling Tian cursed Yuman Lu in his heart for not being foolish. "Your life is still in this old man's hands right now. Is this not the truth? Furthermore, this old man helped you get rid of the above heavens experts yesterday." Yuman Lu continued to roar. "Even plenty of my Yu family members fell to your scheme, but your men were still having a good time in bed last night without any fatalities. Why didn't you talk about that?" Ling Tian raised his hands and feigned surrender before saying helplessly, all right, we shall go with what you have suggested." "All right?" Yuman Lu glared at Ling Tian before cursing under his breath. All of a sudden, Yuman Lu gasped, 5 years. And came to a sudden realization, "Good brat. I have still fallen into your trap." Ling Tian looked at Yuman Lu with an innocent pair of eyes. "What trap?" Yuman Lu looked at Ling Tian's mischievous appearance and could not help but fume with anger. "The Shui family is in the Heavenly Wind continent, and how would our Yu family be able to control when they choose to create trouble with us? Even if we can win against them 3 years later, the Shui family's foundations would still be present. As long as they wish to do so, they can still backstab this old man. If that's the case, won't things be even tougher for this old man?" "That is your problem," Ling Tian said shamelessly. "This isn't something for me to worry about. I need to worry about the omnipotent Zhou family. Omnipotent? Yuman Lu let out a cry filled with disdain and did not say another word. This is only a bet between the both of us with the world as the stakes. However, both you and I will not be able to fully control what happens. Ling Tian said solemnly, I can only restrict my subordinates from seeking trouble with you, but all other things are not in my control. At the same time, I hope that you will also control your Yu family members. Yuman Lu replied with a sneer, naturally. My words are definitely of greater weight as compared to yours. After pausing for a moment he continued, if that's the case, I will pull back the Yu family members stationed in Sky Bearing. I hope that you will not have any actions. Pull back? Ling Tian almost burst into laughter. Send your forces when you want and pull them back as you wish? Do you think Sky Bearing is your backyard? Ling Tian then coldly said, I definitely will not do anything. If they can return, let them return swiftly. As long as you do not make a move, no power would be able to stop them. Yuman Lu said with sincerity, don't worry, I will not let them bring back anything that belongs to Sky Bearing. Let go when it is time to let go was Yuman Lu's character. Since there was such a bet between them, there wasn't a need for him to make use of Yu Bingyan to scheme. While many people would definitely scoff and mock this bet of theirs if it were to spread and doubt the authenticity of such a bet, Yuman Lu knew that it wasn't a joke. Yuman Lu firmly believed that this elegant teen in front of him was just like him. As crazy as him and as heartless as him. This was the conclusion he came to after observing Ling Tian for a long time, and Yuman Lu was certain that he won't be wrong. Let this world be the stakes for a bet between two crazy individuals. Yuman Lu was filled with a thrilling feeling. However, who knew whether or not Ling Tian had the same thoughts as Yuman Lu? If Ling Tian knew what Yuman Lu thought of him, he would probably end up bursting into laughter. The moment this bet was set, regardless of who ends up ruling over the world, the time taken would definitely be halved. This reduction in time was something that both Ling Tian and Yuman Lu would be extremely satisfied with. Thus, Yuman Lu was truly unwilling to backstab Ling Tian at such a moment. Ling Tian let out an indifferent chuckle, up to you. Yuman Lu nodded his head and a crazed glow could be seen in his eyes. Such a bet was completely in line with his crazy character. To treat the world as a chessboard and humans as chess pieces. Yuman Lu was extremely satisfied. In his heart, the many people in the world were of little importance and no different from ants. Only he had the rights to be in control of the life and death of these ants. He had full confidence in winning this bet. So what if Ling Tian was extremely talented? Could the foundation of 1,000 years be withstood by a single Ling Tian? In fact, Yuman Lu did not even think that Ling Tian had the hope of uniting the East in 5 years and have a final battle with him. However, Yuman Lu was not bothered about this. He wanted to unite the West in 5 years so that more than half the battle would be won. At that time, regardless of whether or not Ling Tian united the East, Yuman Lu wouldn't mind going to war with the world. No matter what, this would save much more time than his original plan. Yuman Lu only wanted time. As Ling Tian looked at Yuman Lu forcefully suppressing his craziness, an odd feeling rose in his heart. While this plan of his was carefully planned with Yuman Lu's craziness in mind, the moment this bet was set, it also meant that there was no turning back for him. 5 years. Compared to Yuman Lu, Ling Tian did not lack time at all. After all, he was only 17 and had the time to wait. While Ling Tian was not as crazy as Yuman Lu, and the people of the world did hold a place in his heart, Ling Tian wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice them if it was necessary for him to rule over the world. Even if he managed to gain 5 years from Yuman Lu, these 5 years would undoubtedly be filled with slaughter. While Ling Tian had plenty of trump cards up his sleeves, Yuman Lu was not lacking in means either. Both of them were gloating about how the other party had fallen into their trap and was completely certain of their own victory. Both of them laughed in delight at the same time. "If that's the case, let us slap our palms in an oath. One that we must never break," Ling Tian said solemnly. "Ba. Ba. Ba." They slapped their palms together 3 times before making the same action. Both of them lowered their heads and looked at their palms with a frown. A short while later, Yuman Lu asked calmly, "What did you see?" However, his calm voice was filled with a bloodthirsty aura. Chapter 482, Physically and Emotionally Exhausted. "I see that." Ling Tian suddenly smiled, while he suppressed the words he most wanted to say, instead muttering, "Even after experiencing so much slaughter, my hands are still clean." Yuman Lu jolted in shock, before smiling as he thought about it. He slowly replied, "Mine also are still clean and white." "We will see red soon." Ling Tian cynically spoke, "Bright red, dark red, vermilion red, as well as blood red. When the time comes for it to be red, it should not be white, neither should it remain white." Yuman Lu folded his hands behind his back. As he spoke, there was an aura of loneliness behind him, as well as an unspeakable lack of emotion. Witnessing the current manner of Yuman Lu, Ling Tian suddenly felt a little suffocated, and could not help but want to knock him down a peg. He indifferently replied, "I heard from family head that there is no one in the world that could remain obstructed within the Yu family's circle of influence. Could it be that, in the past millennia, this had been so? Has there really been no one?" Yuman Lu's face turned black as he shot a piercing gaze at Ling Tian. He already knew what Ling Tian wanted to say. "I seem to have heard before that the Yu family once had an exceedingly talented elder, called Yu Zhaochen." Ling Tian unhurriedly spoke. "Enough." Once the 3 words Yu Zhaochen was said, Yuman Lu's face had a great change, seemingly turning a little savage. His hands curled up into fists. Ling Tian, however, did not even glance at him, continuing as though he was minding his own business. "I heard that this elder Yu Zhaochen had martial skills so profound that it was scary, supposedly the top expert the Yu family had produced in a century. I'm not sure if that was true. However, he seemed to have died under the hands of someone, and the body delivered to the grand hall of the Yu residence, right? I even heard that family head Yu didn't do anything to that person at all. Was there really such a thing? If that's the case, then that person could be considered to have treated the Yu residence as his very own playground, right?" Ling Tian still had on a smiling expression when he looked at Yuman Lu, but his gaze of aggressive. Yuman Lu's face grew frosty, as he revolved his killing intent once again. He never would have thought that such a secretive matter could also be uncovered by Ling Tian. That day, when the green-robed fortune teller Ling Chen had carried Yu Zhaochen's corpse into the Yu family, the reactions of his family were overly intense, wanting to chop Ling Chen down where he stood. Unfortunately, behind him was Heavenly Justice, as well as the Beyond Heaven sect. Furthermore, Yuman Lu knew that the true killer was the legendary top expert Heavenly Justice, and he was something the Yu family could not handle. Thus, he suppressed the calls for blood, escorting Ling Chen personally and leaving, before giving the order that no one was to seek revenge for Yu Zhaochen. This was the greatest humiliation the Yu family had suffered in the past millennium, as well as the greatest humiliation Yuman Lu had received ever since he took the reins as head. From then on, this became a sort of taboo, and no one dared to breathe a word about this in front of Yuman Lu. To think that such a secretive matter could be dug out by Ling Tian, and to even have salt rubbed in his wound, so how could Yuman Lu not be frustrated? Finally dealt this old fox a good blow. Looking at the ashen expression on Yuman Lu's face, Ling Tian felt unbearably happy, and elegantly concluded, "Family head, take care of yourself. This 5-year period will pass by in a flash." Ling Tian bids his farewell first. Cupping his fists, Ling Tian let out merry laughter as he walked past Yuman Lu with light footsteps, floating off to the distance. Ling Tian had already walked off a long distance, yet Yuman Lu still continued standing in the forest, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spat out 3 words with great hatred: "Beyond heaven's sect." Hong. The brand new bench that Ling Tian had been sitting on moments ago splintered into innumerable fragments, flying all around. Yuman Lu clenched his fists as he stared at where Ling Tian had walked off, muttering to himself, "You have no hope in this upcoming gamble." The moment Ling Tian walked out of the dense forest, he was greeted with the dazzling rays of sunshine. He slightly paused for a while, tilting his body as his eyes gazed at the spot which he just came out from. His lips curled into a smile as he too muttered, "You have no chance at all in this gamble." The Yu family. Yuman Lu stood ramrod straight at the doorstep, looking at the 2 black and glossy heads that were deeply bowed before him. His face was full of fury, as well as an unknown bizarre expression. The 2 in front of him were precisely the next successors of the Yu family. When Yuman Lu returned, Liu Shui had just been freed from captivity by his second brother, Liu Feng. As such, he was only wearing his undergarments. Because there would naturally be scuffles as he struggled against his captors, there were many places where the undergarments were torn, giving him the look of a beggar, unkempt beyond words. As for the second young master Liu Feng, that idiot probably was not aware of the circumstances, or maybe the head deacon did not have time to explain anything to him. All he had was an expression of "I've accomplished a great achievement," his face glowing with pride. He obviously wanted to laugh out loud, but still put on a look of someone who is steady and unflustered. In his heart, he thought that he had achieved a great accomplishment by uncovering the matter between his third brother and the above heavens sect, preventing losses in the family. The biggest reward would be the fact that his third brother would have no more qualifications to fight in the successor battle against him. From today onward, his third brother would definitely be banished into the backlines by their father, without the qualifications to compete for anything, while he, being the final descendant, would automatically become the next in line for family head. Thinking about this, Liu Feng felt as though he was being handed an iced drink on a hot summer day. Yuman Lu originally had in mind when he came back, to fly into a terrible rage and control those 2 sons of his a little. After all, even if they did not amount to anything, they were still his sons, and he had to put in a bit of effort in teaching them. However, upon reaching the place and seeing the image of his 2 sons, Yuman Lu suddenly felt his heart freeze, without even the slightest bit of interest in this matter. Let alone talking about flaring up, he did not even have the mood to reproach them. If one compares objects, there would be one thrown away. If one compares people, then one would have to go. Just look at Ling Tian, he wasn't even 17 yet. How did the elders of the Ling family educate him to produce such a talent? Yuman Lu himself was the smartest and best strategist the Yu family had obtained in a millennium, but why? Why was it that his children that were supposed to succeed him were also useless? Liu Yan, why did he have to leave so early, so quickly? There's nothing sadder than a withered heart. Yuman Lu suddenly thought of this phrase. Indeed, the Yuman Lu currently had already completely lost heart with his 2 sons. Looking at them, he recalled Ling Tian's words, "I have previously met both of them. In all honesty, they are truly bad cement that can't hold up a wall. I think that every time you think about how the world that you will reign over in the future will be ruined by them, you will lose all of your motivation. Bad cement that cannot be used to build. Dog meat that cannot be served anywhere." This was the evaluation given by his greatest opponent, to his own flesh and blood. Furthermore, his own opponent was younger than his youngest son by a few years, probably only considered half an adult. However, not only had he assumed responsibility, he had also grown into one of the few experts that stood at the very top of the continent. He had turned into an opponent that he could not underestimate and even admired. The latter had even dared to make a bet with himself. Comparing Ling Tian and his sons, Yuman Lu felt so embarrassed that he wanted to bang his head on a wall and die. especially when he recalled what Ling Tian said with disdain on his face and the demeanor of an expert. Then looking at the cringing looks on his one son as well as the stupidly proud look on the other, he wanted to bury himself. Yuman Lu smiled in sorrow. How could this Yu family head, who shook the world with his footsteps, actually have such useless children? If Ling Tian's words were to be spread outside, how many of his enemies would crow and further gossip about him? My decision in the past was wrong. I should not have placed all my efforts on just nurturing Liu Yan, allowing the other two to do as and what they liked. However, I did so to avoid the result of the brothers turning against each other after I have left this world. Just like in yesteryear, where I never had any thoughts towards Man Ting and Man Tian even though my influence was at its peak because I knew that they would never want to threaten my place as family head. However, Liu Yan's sudden death left me unprepared. Was my choice that year really wrong? This matter ends here. You both may go. Standing in the same spot for such a long while, the rage on his face slowly receded, only be to replaced with endless sorrow and disappointment. He tiredly massaged his brows, not even glancing at his sons. He had merely waved his hand and spoke those two words. Regarding the motives of his second son, how could he not know? He did not wish to reprimand him, for if he was in the shoes of his son, he might have actually done the same thing, just not so obviously and foolishly. As for the actions of his third son, he did not wish to know the reason, and neither did he require a reason. This was because his purpose was so simply put out. What happened had already occurred, and Yuman Lu did not wish to pursue anything. He only felt his body physically and emotionally exhausted when he gazed at his sons. But, father, how could Liu Feng, who had used all his tricks to achieve this scenario, be willing to let it pass just like that? He thoroughly threw aside his facade of being calm and unflustered, shouting out in panic. He did not understand, his father facing the betrayal from his own son, to the whole family, just what sort of heavy crime was this? So how could his father ignore all and let it pass so easily? Liu Feng immediately argued for what was right, as though wanting to send his own brother to the execution grounds. I've already said that it ends here. Did you not hear me clearly? All of you are to retreat now. Do you not hear me? Yuman Lu burst into a rage as he shouted, the veins on his head popping out. Get out. Scram scram scram. All of you get the hell out of here. The sudden burst of rage, much like the strike of a lightning bolt, made Liu Feng suddenly have this image in his head, that if he continued staying, it was likely that his father would personally snap his own neck. Chapter 483, Family Head Takes a Concubine. Both the Yu brothers ran out of the room pathetically, and right before they stepped out of the door, they looked at each other with disgust and bone-deep hatred. An irreconcilable hatred. Who was Yuman Lu? He naturally saw all of this and was angered to the point he began to tremble. He swept a white glass onto the ground and smashed it into pieces. However, his anger was not quenched fully, and right when he wanted to find something else to smash, he realized that he had lost control of his emotions. He quickly circulated his inner chi to suppress his emotions, and blood rushed to his head to the point his whole face flushed red. Ling Tian's words were akin to a venomous seed which had taken root in his heart. As time went by, it also began to sprout just as Ling Tian had planned. This move of Ling Tian was sinister indeed and capable of killing someone without making a move. However, even if Yuman Lu was aware of that, he had no choice but to fall into the trap. Thus, Yuman Lu was both frustrated and heartbroken with his emotions in a complete mess. Head Deacon. Yuman Lu growled in a low voice. This subordinate is here. The head deacon took a step forward with unease. At the same time, his heart was pounding as though there were 100 deer galloping in his heart. He naturally knew what he did between both the young nobles, and he could also guess the reason why Yuman Lu was calling for him. Thus, he was immediately flustered. In the Yu family, Yu Zhaoran was considered the most senior person, and he could even be considered to be Yu Manlu's uncle. Furthermore, Yu Zhaochen was also his biological brother, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he held a high status in the Yu family. But in front of this merciless family head, he would never dare to display his displeasure. After witnessing more than 10 years of their Yu family's bloody history, Yu Zhaochen was extremely clear just how heartless the seemingly magnanimous family head of theirs truly was. Ever since Yu Manlu took over the Yu family, he had never shown mercy in killing those who needed to be killed. Thus, Yu Zhaochen would never dare to display the slightest bit of disrespect in front of his family head. At the same time, he would never dare to flaunt his seniority and consider himself as Yu Manlu's uncle. He knew that his family head didn't like that. Yu Manlu's piercing glare was fixed coldly on Yu Zhaoran, and he did not say a single word for a long time. However, Yu Zhaoran was already covered with a cold sweat at this moment. His glistening sweat rolled down slowly off his cheeks, and in just a short moment a puddle of sweat could be seen forming under Yu Zhaoran's feet. Head Deacon seems to be very busy recently. Yu Manlu finally opened his mouth and said with a tinge of frustration, "You are already getting old and shouldn't tire yourself out." The head deacon trembled before replying hoarsely, "Yes. Thank you, family head, for your concern. This subordinate will remember family head's words." Yu Manlu continued to glare at him for a moment before retracting his gaze. "Let everything come to an end here. Since I don't plan to punish both of my sons, why should I make things difficult for their assistant?" In Yu Manlu's heart, Yu Zhaoran was far more important than both his sons at this moment. For no other reason but because Yu Zhaoran was still of use to him right now. Feeling his family head's gaze shift away from him, Yu Zhaoran let out a sigh of relief. As his senses eased up, he suddenly felt a chilly feeling and was shocked to realize that his clothes were already drenched from his sweat. Yu Manlu let out a long breath, and in the ears of Yu Zhaoran, it sounded like a long sigh. He could not help but feel his heart tighten up again, only to hear Yu Manlu's calm voice, "I heard that the previous Prime Minister of Northern Wei has a daughter in his residence." Yu Zhaoran was completely oblivious as to why his family head would ask such a question and could only reply carefully, "Yes, this subordinate has also heard of her before. It is said that she is 16 this year and has the title of #1 beauty in Bright Jade City. However, this old man has never seen her before." For family head to ask about her, does family head intend to propose a marriage for the two young nobles? A rare look of embarrassment flashed past Yu Manlu's face before he remarked in a cold voice, "How can those two little beasts be worthy of her? If that's the case, choose an auspicious date and fetch her in directly." Yu Manlu said that both his sons were not worthy of her, but still insisted on fetching her into the Yu residence. If that's the case, wasn't it extremely obvious who the groom would be? Yu Zhaoran's face cramped up as though he was trying to hold something back and said respectfully, "Yes." He then pondered for a moment, "The 8th of this month is an auspicious date suitable for getting married. Would it be too rushed?" Yu Manlu responded with a no before asking, "Is it very rushed?" Yu Zhaoran felt his heart skip a beat as he chuckled, not rushed at all, and there is definitely sufficient time." At the same time, he grumbled in his heart, "It is already the 3rd of the month, and even the marriage of an ordinary peasant would require at least 3 months of preparations. Right? Since the other party is the daughter of the ex-prime minister, we should at least go through the proper rites, right? Even if we want to speed things up, it would still take half a year at the very least." However, it seems as though his family head cannot wait any longer already. Just what was going on with the family head? Yu Manlu turned around, and noticing the queer expression on Yu Zhaoran's face, he asked, "What are you laughing at? Is this matter very funny?" "Ah. This subordinate doesn't dare." Yu Zhaoran was frightened to the point he began sweating again. "This subordinate will go and arrange matters immediately. He then escaped hurriedly. In the mouth of Yu Man Lu, the daughter of a prime minister was no different from the daughter of an ordinary farmer. As long as he said that he wanted to marry her, she must enter his Yu family. Furthermore, everyone was certain that even if he were to say immediately instead of in a few days, this matter would be accomplished without any effort. Even if effort was required, the ones putting in the effort would definitely be others. After all, Yu Man Lu was someone who was only concerned with the outcome and not the process. In the Northern Wei territory, the family head of the Yu family enjoyed a status that was 100 times greater than any imperial family member. So what if she is the prime minister's daughter? Furthermore, he was only a former prime minister. Seeing the head deacon leave as though he was escaping, Yu Man Lu's eyes seemed to have been lit up with two ghostly flames. Yu family head is going to take a concubine. While this piece of news was intentionally being concealed, it still spread throughout the city like the wind. In just a single night, the whole bright Jade City was aware of this matter. Naturally, it would also enter Ling Tian's ears. Hearing this, Ling Tian's first reaction was to spit the mouthful of tea he had just drank onto Zhou Yanzu's face. He angered her to the point steam could be seen emitting from her head, and she wanted to pounce onto Ling Tian to give him a good beating again. After Zhou Yanzu knew that there wasn't going to be any more danger, she immediately pestered Ling Tian to remove her disguise. The moment her disguise was removed, she rushed straight into her room to put on a fresh set of makeup, leaving only after she confirmed that her beautiful appearance was regained. Just when she walked in front of her beloved man with the intention to flaunt her beauty, she was greeted with a mouthful of tea. Ling Tian did not know whether to laugh or cry. He never imagined that beneath that old man's dignified appearances, he was actually such a hasty individual. However, Ling Tian also respected the fact that Yu Man Lu could actually accept the advice of an enemy. Of the millions of people in the world, how many would be able to accept another's advice so easily? Furthermore, such characters were even rarer when only considering martial arts experts. Especially a peerless expert like Yu Man Lu, who was even the overlord of a territory. In his previous life and this, Ling Tian was certain that only Yu Man Lu would be able to accept the disgusting advice of his enemy. If Ling Tian were to be completely honest with himself, he knew that it was impossible for him to accept his enemy's advice after being humiliated by his enemy. Yu Man Lu, a truly extraordinary individual and worthy to be my greatest opponent. Zhou Yanzu flusteredly cleaned herself up, and upon seeing Ling Tian holding in his laughter so badly, she thought that Ling Tian was mocking her. Thus, she took a step forward and grabbed him at his collar. "Are you crazy? What are you laughing for? Shut up. You're not allowed to laugh at me. Be serious." She then realized that Ling Tian's expression really changed after her words. He became strict, respectable and full of wariness. Such an expression made Zhou Yanzu truly flustered. She didn't know what could have happened to make her beloved man, who was the proud ruler of a territory at such a young age, have such an expression. Could it be that my words were truly that effective? "What's going on?" Zhou Yanzu let go of Ling Tian and asked softly. "Yu Man Lu is taking in a concubine." Ling Tian waved a slip of paper in his hand and said with an odd expression. "Ah." Zhou Yanzu was startled and she began to stutter. "Yu Man Lu is going to take in a concubine? He is probably past his fertile age, right?" "Not yet, it seems that he is only 49. Ling Tian said. "Not yet 50? 49. My goodness, is that any different from being 50? I wonder who was the unlucky fellow who gave him such an idea? An old man like him is going to ruin a young lady." Zhou Yanzu was furious. Ling Tian responded with an awkward expression. "I think that I am that unlucky fellow who caused this incident. Yu Man Lu was probably urged on by me to take a concubine." Chapter 484, Was it a mistake? "Ah. You? Zhou Yanzu gasped with her hands covering her mouth and a look of incredulity. Following that, the gossiping nature of a lady erupted. After all, this was the gossip of the Yu family head. Hurry, 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 hurry. Tell me, what happened? How did you egg him on? Amazing. He, I think that you can become a matchmaker. Zhou Yanzu's breathing became ragged as she grabbed onto Ling Tian's arm and shook it vigorously. It happened like this. Ling Tian said with conceit. After all, not anyone in the world would be able to render Yu Man Lu speechless with pent-up grievances. He then began to slowly illustrate what had happened. Zhou Yanzu burst out laughing and her eyes were narrowed to the point they formed a slit. However, she suddenly stopped laughing at the very end and her expression also grew serious. She then looked at Ling Tian with a solemn expression and said coldly, "Are you very delighted?" "Ah. Ling Tian said awkwardly as he looked at Zhou Yanzu while wondering what was up with her again. Why would there be such a drastic change in her expression in such a short instant? No wonder there was a saying, a woman's heart, needle in the ocean. Just the way her expression changed so rapidly was something that an ordinary person wouldn't be able to bear. Ling Tian lamented in his heart, women. A species that just cannot be understood. Zhou Yanzu was both angered and anxious as she tapped on Ling Tian's forehead lightly. "Hayes, you were wise for a lifetime but foolish for an instant." Ling Tian suddenly felt that something was definitely wrong and grew solemn as well. "Can I seek your teachings?" "Hayes." Zhou Yanzu let out a sigh. "If you were Yu Man Lu and the son with the brightest future had passed away with only 2 wastrels left behind, how would you feel? The 3 miseries of life, death of parents when young, death of spouse during the middle-aged days, and death of son when old. Yu Man Lu can already be considered to be an old man and such a blow was something that not many people would be able to endure. Even if Yu Man Lu had great control over his emotions, his state of mind would definitely be affected because he could no longer see any hope." "True." Ling Tian's face grew ugly. It seems like he had unknowingly made a huge mistake. He had given his biggest opponent a glimmer of hope. Currently, the most important thing to a person like Yu Man Lu isn't the extension of his life but for his family lineage to carry on. Zhou Yanzu said hatefully, "Yu Man Lu originally did not have any thoughts about that and only wanted to live the last segment of his life with brilliance. He originally did not have any hope for the younger generation of the Yu family but you actually gave him such a huge hope at this period. You reminded him that he can have another child." Zhou Yanzu's face blushed slightly and she continued, "With Yu Man Lu's status and age, he would not have thought of that for sure. However, you in an attempt to give him a blow, you gave him a huge reminder. This reminder of yours helped him to walk out of the trap he would have never walked out of. Furthermore, he will be filled with even greater fighting spirit to gain hegemony over the continent. You gave him a new hope and target while filling up his originally fatigued heart again. This opponent that was already difficult to deal with will become even more troublesome. As long as someone has a change in the state of his mind, there would definitely be a huge chain effect." Zhou Yanzu glared at Ling Tian angrily, "And you are still feeling delighted over your actions?" Zhou Yanzu was indeed a genius who was able to deduce such frightening consequences from Ling Tian's short description. At the same time, Zhou Yanzu could not help but grow anxious. The stronger Yu Man Lu was, the more Ling Tian and her Zhou family would be in danger. It was impossible for Zhou Yanzu to let go of these 2 families. Ling Tian was visibly impacted and he let out a sigh. "That's right, it was my mistake indeed. A grave mistake." From the moment he told Yu Man Lu those words, he could vaguely sense that something was wrong. However, he just didn't know what was wrong. After Zhou Yanzu broke down the matter for him in such detail, he truly realized his mistake. Furthermore, such a grave mistake. The considerations of a wise man would definitely miss something. However, even if he realized his mistake, it was far too late already. Yu Manlu was already like a reborn phoenix under his provocation and walked out of hopelessness. While there was a trace of regret in his heart, Ling Tian was filled with more craziness and excitement. Seeing Ling Tian admit his mistake, Zhou Yanzu felt her heart ache and consoled. Even if this is the case, it wouldn't be too serious. Let the generals block the soldiers and damp block the flood. We may not end up losing to Yu Manlu. Furthermore, he is almost turning 50 already, and would it be that easy for him to have a child? Perhaps it may be a daughter? Ling Tian let out a chuckle and said with ease and even excitement, nothing is absolute in the world. However, so what if Yu Manlu can walk out from his hopelessness? Don't you think that things are more interesting that way? More interesting? Zhou Yanzu glared at Ling Tian. What do you mean by that? She was only trying to console Ling Tian, but she was truthfully the person who felt the greatest regret. Ling Tian crossed his arms and said proudly, "We are in chaotic times, and this is also the time when heroes are born. Every time such chaotic times spread throughout the continent, what follows after it would definitely be the unification of the continent. Just as the saying goes, what splits up will join back eventually, what is joined together will split up eventually." But what has this got to do with Yu Manlu? Zhou Yanzu blinked her eyes and asked with doubt. Ling Tian chuckled, since the world is going to be united, there will definitely be a peerless ruler emerging and sweeping through the continent, am I right? This is also the pattern by which history develops, right? Of course. How would the mediocre individual be able to unite the world and call himself sovereign? Zhou Yanzu said with a you don't say look. If that's the case, how can an individual display his extraordinary capabilities? Ling Tian pointed up towards the sky. He can only do so when there are other heroic, ambitious, villainous and special characters in the world, fighting them to the bitter death while treating the world as his chessboard. If one is able to rule over the world without a hitch, that would only mean that he is extremely lucky and does not mean a thing. Ling Tian smiled proudly. One would only be able to display how extraordinary he is when facing a powerful opponent. The life without an opponent is extremely boring. Ling Tian sighed. Rather than win a war without challenge, I would rather die in a vigorous large-scale battle. Yu Manlu will be the biggest whetstone in my life. Ling Tian's eyes glowed with radiance. Only when this whetstone is hard enough can the sword be sharpened. Looking at Ling Tian's sudden majestic display, a trace of intoxication flashed past Zhou Yanzu's eyes. However, she asked with ridicule on the surface, "Oh? If that's the case, you are trying to say that you are the hegemon who is going to unite the continent?" "Of course." Ling Tian raised his head up arrogantly. "In this world, I, Ling Tian, will be the main character. The main character. I am Ling Tian and I want to rule over the world. My purpose in the world is to rule over the world." He then mused in his heart, if I am not the main character, why did I transmigrate into this world? This is transmigration. It would be even weirder if I transmigrated into this world to sell cabbages in the market. Zhou Yanzu snorted with disdain and turned around without saying a thing. A long while later, Zhou Yanzu turned back and said with frustration, "There is something that I still don't understand." "What's the matter?" Even the wise and valiant Miss Zhou is puzzled. Ling Tian said in a teasing tone. Zhou Yanzu grunted before saying with a frown, "If Yu Manlu only wants to raise an offspring, why can't he find a random maid to be concubine from his Yu residence? With the huge size of the Yu residence, there should be at least 100 ladies, right? Could it be that he can't even pick one out? He really had to humiliate the former Prime Minister of Northern Wei? After all, the Prime Minister's family is considered a huge family not to be underestimated." Humiliate? Ling Tian looked at Zhou Yanzu with an odd expression. Is this a form of humiliation? Shouldn't it be boundless glory? Since you can do so many things, why can't you understand that? How should I put this? Could it be that it is considered glorious for a former prime minister like him to marry off his daughter to an old man in 3 days? Zhou Yanzu said with her lips pouted. Of course it is a huge glory. Ling Tian cried out, I believe that Prime Minister is probably jumping for joy at the moment. A Prime Minister should probably have some brains after all. Jumping for joy? I think he should be hopping in anger instead. Zhou Yanzu snorted, his only daughter being taken in as a concubine by an old man nearing 50. Furthermore, it wasn't even a choice for him. What can he be happy about? Silly lass, this is the scheme of a monarch and was Yu Manlu's intention. As long as the Prime Minister understands that, he would only feel glory and not the slightest bit of grievance. Ling Tian chuckled, since the Prime Minister was once the Prime Minister of Northern Wei, he would have lived his life for nothing if he can't understand something so simple. Chapter 485, Leaving the City. Seeing Zhou Yanzu still filled with doubt, Ling Tian sighed and explained, Yu Manlu is already planning for the imperial throne after the continent is united. Why must he marry a lady from a big family? This is so that his future child would have sufficient status and foundation to ascend the throne in future, including a sufficiently powerful mother clan. Do you understand? The more he chooses a lady from a prestigious family, the more he doesn't place any hope in the 2 sons of his. His anxiousness represents the importance which he places in this matter. Furthermore, his action would also mean that Yu Manlu was extremely satisfied and regarded this former prime minister greatly. Why shouldn't he be happy? If Yu Manlu united the continent in future, his grandson would be the future ruler of the world and his family would be carried to new heights as well. Can all of these benefits not outweigh a single daughter of his? Ling Tian then added with a mocking smile, besides, a daughter will have to be married out eventually. If you were in his shoes, would you rather your daughter be the empress or even the empress dowager? Or would you rather your daughter marry a poor scholar? As long as Yu Manlu can unite the world, then the imperial throne would not escape from them. In the world today, is there a family which is even stronger than the Yu family? Ling Tian scoffed. I see. No wonder. Zhou Yanzu suddenly lowered her head with depression. After understanding all of these, she thought about how her family wanted to force her into a marriage and could not help but feel dejected. Seeing Zhou Yanzu's expression, Ling Tian naturally knew what this lass was thinking about. He could not help but let out a sigh and smile. Why? Seeing an old cow like Yu Manlu eat fresh grass is making Miss Zhou feel regret? Miss Zhou can't wait to get married off? Should I go and inform Yu Manlu? After all, the princess of the Zhou family would definitely have a much higher status than the former prime minister's daughter. I believe that Yu Manlu would definitely change his mind. After all, he should be willing to listen to my opinions. Ling Tian, you. Why don't you just go and die? Zhou Yanzu was embarrassed and angered by Ling Tian's words and did not even have the time to feel any form of self-pity. She quickly grabbed the teacup and flung it towards him. Ling Tian burst into laughter and avoided it. If you snatch Yu Manlu's bride, Zhou Yanzu suddenly said with a flash of inspiration. FK. Ling Tian was shocked out of his wits. Big sister, you should just take those words as a joke. Don't count on me to be so crazy. Zhou Yanzu let out a bright smile filled with grace and elegance. Ling Tian felt his head go dizzy as he almost fell into the beauty's trap. 3 days later, the news of the Yu family having a wedding had spread all across the world. Just as Ling Tian had expected, that former prime minister, Su Jianyan, jumped for joy and sent his daughter over gleefully with his whole residence celebrating secretly. In such chaotic times, their family had managed to cling to the strongest family on the continent. Just when the bride's sedan entered the Yu residence, Ling Tian leisurely rode out of the city with Zhou Yanzu. Nobody knew why Ling Tian only left today or what he had done in the past 3 days. This secret made Yu Manlu frustrated for a long time after he found out about Ling Tian's whereabouts. It was only until many years later that Yu Manlu found out just what Ling Tian had planted in these 3 days. The things that Ling Tian had done and planted in these 3 days almost wiped out the Yu family in a single night. At that time, everything was different and everything was too late. The sun gradually set, and mist began to rise from all directions. However, 2 horses continued to walk along the road at a steady pace as though they weren't afraid of not having a place to stay for the night. "Where are we going? Why are you always giving me a perfunctory reply?" The crisp voice of a young lady could be heard. "Miss, this is the 7th time you have asked me this question." A helpless reply could be heard. "If you do not always reply to me with a ha-ha without telling me where we are going, would I be pestering you? Since you don't want to reply to me, of course I have to continue asking. I will keep asking until I get my answer," the young lady reprimanded with dissatisfaction. "Ha-ha. Again. Ha-ha-ha. Laugh. Just keep laughing. You darn idiot who only knows how to laugh. I heard that you want to go towards the Dongfang family?" Her doubtful voice sounded. "It seems like you have some agreement with Dongfang Jinglei. According to our current route, we are definitely headed towards the Dongfang family." Ms. Zhou is indeed an intelligent lady, and your guess is pretty accurate." A laugh could be heard. "I heard that the Eastern Zhou Crown Prince proposed a marriage to the Zhou family. I am about to send the precious princess of the Zhou family to get married so that the Eastern Zhou Empire can be my stepping stone to power. Is this plan of mine fantastic? You. Annoying. You BSD road. You baddie. You're too bad." The young lady began whining, and the conversation topic was successfully changed. "What are you looking at?" Noticing the horse of the young man stopping, Zhou Yanzu turned behind to see an odd expression on the young man's face. His smile didn't seem like a smile and even seemed a little vulgar. "I am thinking." Ling Tian rubbed his chin and revealed a thoughtful look as a mischievous glow flashed past his eyes. "I am thinking. What do you think Yu Manlu is doing tonight? It really makes my imagination roam," Ling Tian said with a cheeky smile. "What is Yu Manlu doing tonight? Why would you think about that? Ling Tian, you baddie. Can't you be more serious?" Zhou Yanzu's face turned completely red as though her whole body was on fire. Ling Tian then looked at Zhou Yanzu with a smile which didn't seem like a smile as his eyes roamed around her body with 2 devilish chuckles. Looking at her in the eyes, Ling Tian then let out a devilish grin. What was Yu Manlu doing? What else could Yu Manlu be doing? On their wedding night, other than consummating their marriage, could he be planting cabbages instead? As long as he had the heart and strength, he would definitely be having a good time. Of course, if Yu Manlu had the heart but not the strength. Ling Tian's smile became even weirder. At the same time, Zhou Yanzu's body turned soft from Ling Tian's odd glare and she was both embarrassed and angry in her heart. Of all things to think about, Ling Tian had to think about Yu Manlu consummating his marriage. At the same time, Ling Tian actually looked at her with such an odd expression while thinking about that. If that's the case, weren't his thoughts extremely clear? Understanding Ling Tian's lecherous thoughts, Zhou Yanzu's face flushed red and her eyes were lit on fire. She immediately waved her horsewhip around and charged at Ling Tian viciously. Ling Tian burst into laughter and sprinted away on his horse. As he escaped from Zhou Yanzu, he shouted at the same time, "I forgot about something else. What would an old antique like Yu Manlu know? Even if he has the heart and strength, he may not be able to please his new wife well. If he can go for a few remedial lessons first by watching some PRN, it should be of great help to him." Ling Tian lamented with regret. If that old man realizes that his spear is no longer sharp at the very last minute and is unable to break through the city. Ha 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 ha. Ling Tian's malicious thoughts were completely revealed at this moment. You, gangster. You, ruffian. Although Zhou Yanzu didn't know what PRN was, She knew that it definitely wasn't something good. Thus, her face turned even redder as she chased after Ling Tian. As Ling Tian escaped on his horse, he began to laugh lasciviously. He then suddenly thought to himself, if the papa sound of him whipping the horse was placed outside the bridal room as a sound effect, it could probably pass off as the real thing, right? Ha ha ha. The young man and lady then gradually disappeared into the darkness. As for where they intended to go, it was still unclear at the moment. Southern Shui? Gold Jade City. In the Nan Gong family, the sound of crying could be heard at every corner and white banners were seen everywhere. The news of their family head's death was akin to the sky falling down. Endure? When should we continue enduring until? Big brother is already dead, and you still want me to continue enduring? Nan Gong Tian, who paced around the room like a tiger trapped in the cage as he roared with bloodshot eyes, I can't endure any longer. I can't. He then waved his fists around with spittle flying in all direction as his loud roar caused the roof to tremble slightly. I don't want to endure either, but we have to endure. Endure what others can't endure. If we don't, we will die. The whole family will perish. It doesn't matter if you or I die, but can second uncle really sacrifice the lives of the 1,000 people in the Nan Gong family? A crisp voice came out from the frail lady by the side, and the rims of Nan Gong Yu's eyes were red. Second uncle, this is not the time for you to be rash. Your rashness will only bring us destruction. You are truly calm and composed. Nan Gong Tian, who sneered, both your father and brother are dead and the authority of the family is held in your hands. Of course you are able to remain calm and you are probably feeling ecstatic at the moment, right? You are even thanking the culprit who murdered your father, right? You don't even want to take revenge for your biological father? Good, good, good. Nan Gong Tian, who nodded his head and was filled with grief and indignation, what a filial daughter indeed. What a filial daughter indeed. It is a pity that up until his death, Big Brother never noticed how filial you truly are. Second uncle. What nonsense are you spouting? Nan Gong Yu was angered to the point she stood up trembling. The enmity of my father's death will never be reconciled. How will I ever let Ling Tian off? But do we have the strength to take revenge now? Do we have the strength to chase after Ling Tian? Even if we were to bring out all of our Nan Gong family's troops, we will not be a match for Ling Tian. Have you not understood the strength of the Ling family through the rebellion in Skybearing? Do you want our whole family to perish before you give up the idea of revenge? Bullshit. What strength does the Ling family have? I do not know and have not seen it. Nan Gong Tian, who roared with agitation, however, we must take revenge for Big Brother. Even if the whole family is destroyed, we must ensure that the little brat is buried with us. Chapter 486, The Nan Gong Family's Revenge. Be buried with him? Tears could be seen in Nan Gong Yu's eyes as she coldly laughed. We don't even possess the strength to allow Ling Tian to be buried with us. The moment we rush indiscriminately into action, the only thing that will be buried with us is the family that we've run for centuries. Second uncle, this niece begs you to be more realistic. Be patient and endure for a while more. Father's death will not be in vain. No. Nan Gong Tian, who burst into a rage, pulling at his hair. Strands of frizzled hair flew all over the place as he painfully replied, he killed my elder brother. Killed him. I can't wait even a second longer, I'm going to kill him now. Sacrifice him to my big brother in heaven. Nan Gong Tian, whose face contorted into a ferocious expression, and he suddenly grabbed on Nan Gong Yu's throat. He started strangling her as he screamed with bloodshot eyes, Nan Gong Yu. If you're going to stop me from avenging my brother's death, then this old man will first settle you. Cough cough. Nan Gong Yu struggled to breathe. Seeing that her uncle did not have any thoughts of placing her down, she could only weakly sputter out, okay. If you're willing to listen to my arrangement, then I can implement the revenge plan against Ling Tian, against the entire Ling family. Peng. Tianhu immediately threw her onto the ground, urging, "Hurry, tell me your plan now." As Nan Gong picked herself up, a hint of despair could be seen in her eyes. However, she calmly replied, "Second uncle, you need to first promise me that in this entire operation you will only listen to my orders. Only then will we even have the slightest chance at succeeding. If you decide to act alone, then I would rather use my authority as the family head to dissolve the Nan Gong family, than to cause disaster. Or you could kill me now so that at least the Nan Gong family will not be annihilated by my own hands." Nan Gong Tianhu threw himself onto a chair, breathing heavily. Finally, he directed his ferocious gaze onto his niece, spitting out a long breath. "Say it. I'll follow all your orders. I only wish for revenge. All along, we've been working together with the Ling family and furthermore have obtained quite a bit of benefit. While we've paid a hefty price to do so, we've managed to destroy the killer of my third brother, the Yang family. Without the support from the Ling family, it would be an impossibility of us to achieve that matter, let alone being able to take over their businesses afterward. We've obtained quite a bit in return. Does second uncle agree to that?" As she spoke, Nan Gong rubbed her neck. Under the force of Nan Gong Tianhu, there was already a bruise forming. "So what?" Nan Gong Tianhu blustered, "Just for that little bit of benefit, how could it compare to the life of my brother? He is no longer in this world, so how could having so much benefit amount to?" Another hint of sorrow passed through Nan Gong's eyes. But upon seeing Tianhu gradually compose himself, able to use his brain to think, she relaxed because she knew that she could finally get to him. The cooperation between the two families is in the end based on benefits, and even in the end, the Ling family made use of the Yang family to destroy a large portion of our forces. To that point, we can say that it was our own just deserts since we did not harbor any good intentions. Do you agree with this too? Nan Gong Tianhu only snorted as he looked away. If it's just like that, then that would be acceptable. After all, although we've sacrificed a lot, we have also benefited equally. Nan Gong's eyes were downcast, and it was unknown as to what she was thinking in her heart. However, the words coming out from her mouth were distinct and clear, but, father just had to attempt to get a share of the profits when justice was in pursuit of Ling Tian. This could be said to be a little insatiable. Upon seeing that her uncle was about to leap up, she immediately stretched her hand to gesture to him to sit back down. "I know what father intended." Sky-bearing had already fallen, becoming the land of the Ling family, and the huge benefits it offered would only benefit the Ling family. Without Ling Tian, they would not be able to hold on to Sky-bearing for long. Furthermore, because we worked with him before, we understood his strength and accumulations. So long as he died, then with our partnership, we could take over a lot of businesses, and we would then rise to become a first-rate aristocratic family, comparable to the Yu and Zhou families. She then sighed, "I know that you two had this plan, and it was a good plan. Ling Tian escaping on his own, without any support, so long as he died, no one would know who killed him. Thus, so long as we played the part of the pursuers after Ling Tian, we would obtain the most benefits. Father was thinking for the family, thus even though the plan was a little unscrupulous, it was acceptable. But now, Ling Tian has yet to die, but father has already met his demise." Nan Gong coughed twice, coldly remarking, "This matter was in the first place our fault, and I assume that Ling Tian already has implacable hatred towards us. Our two families are already conflicted with each other, and now my concern is that he will knock on our door at any time for revenge. I'm thinking of how to protect the entire family, the thousands of lives in our family, but second uncle, you are already thinking of taking revenge? Such a deep hatred, who does not want revenge? However, our opponent is Ling Tian. Do you have any assurance to win?" Nan Gong looked at her uncle. "You've also eaten his techniques before, so I won't request so much. So long as you have a 30% chance to kill Ling Tian, I'll mobilize all the family's strength to take revenge for you. But do you have that 30%? You have to be honest. Nan Gong Tian, who angrily grumbled, the flames of hatred in his eyes seemingly about to materialize, but he finally lowered his head in defeat. Forget about 30%, he did not even think of having 0.5% chance of dealing with Ling Tian. Even if he wanted a Pyrrhic victory, he needed a certain degree of strength. A pity, Nan Gong Tian, who did not possess such strength, and even combining the entire strength of the Nan Gong family, they might not even possess that capability. Then, do we just forget about this matter? Don't tell me my big brother, your father, died in vain. Nan Gong Tian, who lowly spat out. His voice had already begun to tremble, as reality began to sink into him. How could we forget it just like this? Nan Gong Yu viciously spoke. If you want to seek revenge, I cannot stop you, and neither can I deal with Ling Tian. However, this doesn't mean that we cannot deal with the others. For example, Ling Tian's grandparents, parents, as well as his women. Upon touching on the topic of his women, Nan Gong Yu spat out word for word. Nan Gong Tian, whose eyes lit up. Your meaning is? We've had quite a bit of contact with Ling Tian back in Sky Bearing. He cares a lot for his family, as well as his women. Nan Gong Yu bit her lips, an icy expression on her face as she spoke. This is especially so for the one closest to him, the lady called Ling Chen. You're saying, the maid that serves Ling Tian? How could this be possible? Nan Gong Tian, who shook his head vigorously. She's just a serving maid, and even if Ling Tian dotes on her, there will not be of much use in dealing with her. Instead, we should be planning on how to get rid of Ling Zhou or his mother. Based on the latest news, Ling Tian had left the operations of the Ling family courtyard completely to Ling Chen before he fled from Sky Bearing. It could have been that the situation was too dangerous at that time, but the fact is that Ling Chen is the sole controller of the entire place now. Nan Gong Yu continued in a low voice, this also means that Ling Chen holds all the power of Ling Tian currently. The one that could make Ling Tian do so would definitely be his most trusted and most loved woman. So long as we can kill her, not only will we throw him into a living hell, but we can also cause all their operations to go into chaos. Once chaos rules, then that would be our true revenge plan. Based on this, even if Ling Tian fails to escape from the pursuit or is hunted down by someone else, we would still obtain the lion's share of the benefits. And those are the items that we most need currently. Nan Gong Tian, who sat in silence for what seemed like half a day before he finally understood the nuances behind the plan. He could not help but jump up in excitement. Ingenious. Truly an ingenious plan. Nan Gong Yu let out a dry smile, a poisonous look within her eyes as she hissed, the reason why I chose Ling Chen was that no one has seen her act before. In other words, this lowly bitch might not even know any martial arts. Even if she does, it is probably superficial, and for us who are lacking strength currently, this is the best advantage we have. That's right. Nan Gong Tian, whose eyes grew brighter. As such, our first objective should be Ling Chen, and only her. We cannot act directly against Ling Tian yet, Nan Gong Yu confidently said. Right now, in addition to lacking the strength to face off against Ling Tian, we still have to watch ourselves for fear of offending beyond heavens. We cannot afford to make more enemies. Thus, this matter has to be extremely secretive, and we cannot reveal any clues about us. Nan Gong Yu warned, if not, Ling Tian's forces will come to look for us, and our family will be finished. Relax. To kill such a small ass, if there was any slip-up, then your second uncle would have lived in vain these few years. Nan Gong Tanu let out a vicious smile. Having learned that not only did his niece want to take revenge, but also had such an intricate plan thought out, he began to feel a little apologetic for his behavior previously, which led to him behaving more mildly. We might not be able to relax. Nan Gong face was heavy as she shook her head. Since Ling Tian has placed her in charge, there will definitely be outstanding bodyguards around her for protection. This matter may seem simple, but it is in fact difficult to achieve. We have to be meticulous in our preparations, covering all loopholes before we take action. That goes without saying. Nan Gong Tian, who felt some disapproval in this but did not say it. For this operation, I'll go together with second uncle. Pacing around the room, Nan Gong could not bring herself to relax and lifted up her head to say, "Get the 2 great deacons and 2 great elders of our family, as well as the various uncles to work together. Then we'll choose a few of the strongest disciples we have to carry out this task together. Our only objective is to ensure that the woman is thoroughly killed, without any loopholes for her to exploit." Chapter 487, Erroneous Calculation. There's no need to go to such great pains, right? Nan Gong Tian, who jumped in shock. This was practically the remaining strength that their family had. Sending all of them just to silence a lass that did not know martial arts, wasn't that equivalent to lifting a mountain to smash a chicken egg? Nan Gong's brows were slightly furrowed, an expression of worry on her face as she replied, "Caution allows a ship to sail for 10,000 years. Besides, even if we send out all our forces, the success rate might not be that high." She seemed to be talking to Nan Gong Tian, who, but at the same time reminding herself, her voice lowered to almost a whisper. "Relax, the plan this time will definitely succeed." Nan Gong Tian, who placated her. "If we can't even kill such a powerless lass, it would be as though a curse has descended upon us. To deal with Ling Tian, we definitely cannot just stick to small-scale events. This will only invite trouble." Nan Gong smiled bitterly. "Once we move, there will be no more room for retreat, thus we have to completely uproot his influence, settling it once and for all." She sighed. "Ling Tian, this person, he is too scary. I really hope that justice will not slip up. He is the only one who can really get rid of Ling Tian. Our first objective is to throw Ling Tian's personal forces and influences into chaos, forcing those eyeing his assets to make a move. When the time comes, everyone shall attack together, and in the shortest time, dig the assets of the Ling family clean." Nan Gong coldly remarked, "So long as we can get our revenge, the Nan Gong family can temporarily go into hiding, and disappear from the sights of everyone in this world. We'll wait until the continent is unified before making plans to deal with the ruling family at that time." Why is that so? In this chaotic age, this is precisely the best time for a man to carve out his career. Why should we go into hiding? This was out of Nan Gong Tian, whose expectations. Could it be that second uncle still thinks our Nan Gong family has the ability to unite this continent? Nan Gong snapped harshly. "If we do not go into hiding, it means that we have to choose a side and fight it out. With the current fragile strength of the Nan Gong family, do you think we can afford such an extravagant consumption? Furthermore, after the battle for the continent, all the various influences will have received some sort of damage to their forces. At that time, we who have bided our time and gathered our strength will then be able to conspicuously stand out. Only then can our Nan Gong family be considered to have risen from the ashes, with enough capabilities and hope." However, Nan Gong Tian, who was still a little miffed over this. As a man, his objective was to rush headfirst onto the battlefield, proving his mettle through war. Only then would he have truly lived. To retreat silently, grinding the prime years of his life against the peaceful forests, he might as well commit suicide. "The command of family head lies in my hands. I am the head of the family here." Nan Gong icily replied, her tone unquestionable. "This matter shall be decided as such. This is also the last chance our Nan Gong family has to rise back up again. I will not allow anyone to question my decision." As such, the plan to assassinate Ling Chen can only allow success and not failure. Her eyes grew sharp and piercing. The glory of the Nan Gong family relies on this final stroke. At this moment, Her slim body was already exuding a sort of pressuring aura, allowing Nan Gong Tianhu to feel that his niece actually had this sort of prestige and might to her, even possibly surpassing that of his elder brother. Once we have settled the final rites for father, those involved will set off that very day, infiltrating Sky-bearing, and waiting for the opportune time to strike. Immediately activate all the secret agents of the Nan Gong family who are currently in Sky-bearing to search for any and all news regarding Ling Chen. Nan Gong sent out her final command. Nan Gong let out a long breath. Ever since she returned from Sky-bearing, the only thing that ever interested her since then was researching about Ling Tian. Whatever he had done, she had browsed through and dissected it, but the more she delved, the more she realized how impossible it was to unravel this person called Ling Tian. Maybe she never stood a chance in researching against someone of Ling Tian's caliber. A pity that they were now enemies. As for Nan Gong's plan, even in the viewpoint of Ling Tian, it was the best and most suitable choice for the Nan Gong family. From this, it could be seen just how astute and wise this daughter of Nan Gong Tianlong was. If she could continue at the helm of the family, sooner or later, there would be a day when the Nan Gong family rose once again. Sadly, Nan Gong was unaware that she had already committed a fatal error. An error that would result in the downfall of the entire family. Ling Chen was not the weak and pathetic lass in their minds, but rather a first-tier expert of martial arts to the point that if one were to compare her among the peers of her generation, she would not have any opponents. Of course, this category excluded monsters such as Ling Tian and Li Zhu, those characters from another world. Shui released her grip, allowing the piece of paper in her palm to fall weakly to the ground. While she had known early on that her brother Shui Qianhuan had caused a huge loss for their family this time, and that it was impossible to avoid punishment, she never expected it to arrive so quickly and for the punishment to be so severe. Revoking all authority that Shui Qianhuan has outside, stripping him of his right as the first successor of the family. Because of his faults, he will await punishment by the enforcement squad. All matters outside the family will temporarily fall to Shui Qianzhong to oversee, with Qianhu, Qianhai, and Qian'er assisting. The family will dispatch the 6 great elders from the Snow Hall, as well as 500 experts of the family to rush to Heavenly Star to provide support. The content of the letter was simple, yet brutally shocking. Only Shui Qian'er herself knew just how perilous the situation was. Those names written together with hers on the letters were all the strongest competitors of her brother. It was because of her brother's outstanding performance that he had managed to trump over all of them and become the first in line for successor. While he basked in immeasurable glory, it was no surprise that he turned into the object of jealousy. With the others already being so unscrupulous even back in their hometown at Heavenly Wind, just what would happen when her brother fell into their hands once they arrived? Would he even manage to survive under them? Furthermore, her brother Shui Qianhuan shared the same parents as her, but Shui Qianhu and the rest were the sons of her eldest uncle. Now that the family made such a choice, it was as good as handing over her brother's position to Shui Qianzhong. If that was the case, then was her father now at a disadvantage in the battle for supremacy in the family? Did anything happen to him? Shui Qian'er could feel her intestines twisting with guilt. She suddenly recalled that her brother was still stuck in Northern Wei far away and wondered why, even after such a huge commotion was kicked up, that he had yet to come back. That was the home turf of the Yu family, and right now, without help from their subordinate contacts, what would happen if he got into trouble? Most likely, he would have to remain there for life. In another 3 days, Shui Qianhu and the rest will arrive. Once they do, they would definitely grind their knives on my brother who is treated like a criminal now. What should I do? Shui Qian'er muttered to herself, as she furrowed her brows tightly, at her wit's end. This was the decree of the family. Even if her own brother had countless means to escape, he did not dare to use them, nor could he. However, Once he fell into the hands of those three, what sort of humiliation would he then be put through? With the pride her older brother had, how would he be able to endure it? What is second sister worrying about now? What about 3 days later? Could the sky be collapsing by then? With her white robes fluttering in the wind, Ling Chen walked over with a faint smile on her face. It was as though a snow lotus suddenly bloomed within the area, as her entrance suddenly transformed the entire place, even the air, to become elegant and refined. Ever since Li Zhu entered the Ling outer courtyard, under her careful guidance, Ling Chen's divine ice formula had improved with the speed of a rocket. Her current strength was miles ahead of where she was previously. Following the increase in cultivation realms, her originally cold attitude, much like that of frost, had slowly transformed into a purity similar to that of snow jade. This was like the saying a character akin to ice, but even more reserved than sub-zero temperatures. She had unconsciously started to display an aura of sacredness and holiness. A hint of envy appeared in Shui Qianru's eyes. While she did not lose out to Ling Chen in terms of appearance, but this unblemished as ice, cold as snow, and pure as jade bearing of the latter was far above what she could display. Furthermore, there was a form of mysterious temperament on Ling Chen that Shui Qianru had never seen on any other women except for the newcomer Li Zhu. If Ling Chen in the past could be considered a piece of ice capable of freezing one's internal organs, she was now like a cold piece of jade that would unknowingly seep into the hearts of people. The auras exuding from both Ling Chen and Li Zhu were similar. Be it the cold martial skills they used, or their cool bearings, both of them seemed to be cut from the same mold, truly fascinating. If one had to pick a difference, then that would be Ling Chen being more elegant and refined, while Li Zhu was more lofty and independent. One embodied a snow lotus, while the other an arrogant winter plum. Why aren't you together with Sister Zhu, instead of coming to look for this little sister? It's not very nice of you to tease this little sister like so. Shui Qianru smiled in response, immediately recollecting all her scattered thoughts. Being one of the successors in line within the Shui family, how could she be lacking in training to manage her emotions and thoughts? While she treated Ling Chen like a true elder sister, there were matters of the heart which she could not easily reveal. Within this period of time, the great Miss Li Zhu had made use of her networking skills from her past life to get all hot and intimate with the three ladies she termed as Ling Tian's women, almost to the point of them becoming akin to family. Even blood-related siblings might not compare to the current closeness of their relationships. Within this warm and loving sisterly environment, Shui Qianru also indulged in it, placing home and duty behind her. This place had more sincerity and warmth when compared to her true home, the Shui family, causing her to always feel wistful and reluctant to leave this place. Chapter 488, Love Without Prospects. I came here to see our great talented lady, to see what sort of poetry she's composing right now. As Ling Chen smiled, she teased, I did not expect to see our little talent here deep in grief, sighing non-stop as though she had just lost her love. This really made me stop in shock. Come, tell sister, what sort of great work have you come out with? Ling Chen clearly knew that Shui Qianru was not doing any sort of composition, but still chose to deliberately tease her. This was to soothe her worries, and this point was duly noted by Shui Qianru, filling her with gratitude. You're the beautiful lady with worries. One Shui Qianru rolled her eyes at her, after which she could not help but sigh. I won't hide this from sister. They're almost here, at most in another 3 days. I guessed as much. Ling Chen immediately kept her smile, not bothering to tease her anymore. Are you worried for your brother's safety? It isn't so bad to the point that his well-being is threatened, but with this huge loss that brother has suffered, the family has already stripped him of his right for first-in-line successor of the family. I do not know what punishments await him, and furthermore, those three have always looked unfavorably at my brother. Humiliation will definitely be on the list. Shui Qianru worriedly replied. Oh. Ling Chen's eyes flashed as she consoled, No matter what, your brother is still the son of the current family head, so who would dare to do anything to him? The humiliation in a way could serve as a driving force. Sisters shouldn't be too worried about it. You have to take care of yourself, only then can you remain as the greatest support for your brother. Shui Qianmer's expression grew cold as she forced out, "It might just be a small humiliation, but in the eyes of those three, elder brother isn't a person of respect even though he is the son of the family head. Instead, they treat him as a thorn in the eye. Elder brother's failure this time, they will definitely not let go of this heaven-sent opportunity for them. They would definitely go to all lengths to humiliate him, and with brother's pride, how could he bear it?" As she spoke, her brows furrowed, and she continued with a hint of suspicion, "Furthermore, this matter of elder brother getting into trouble is rather fishy. If Yu Manlu really possessed the strength to topple my Shui family, then why did he wait till now in order to take action? I keep feeling as though there is something behind the scenes, but I just cannot fit the puzzle pieces together." Ling Chen gently smiled, "Even if there's more than it meets the eye, there's no need for you to torture yourself like this, right? In addition, even if your three cousins come over, this place still belongs to the Ling family, and they definitely have to give this elder sister some face. As such, protecting your elder brother shouldn't be too big a problem." She easily and deftly maneuvered Shui Qianmer away from her suspicions, to the point that it was seamless. Even Ling Tian would blush in shame before her act. Ever since Shui Qianmer received the letter from her family, she had been pondering over this problem. While she was sworn sisters with Ling Chen, she had some measure of being able to ask for her help, but Shui Qianhuan had constantly pestered Ling Chen during his time here such that he already aroused the ire of Ling Chen. For the latter not to kick him while he was down would already be a good thing, let alone giving him help. However, seeing Ling Chen voluntarily extend her help to aid her elder brother, Shui Qianmer was overjoyed. She immediately jumped up and grabbed onto Ling Chen's hands, mumbling in gratitude, "Then I'll have to really thank Big Sis. So long as I can temporarily secure my brother's well-being until he reaches Heavenly Wind Continent, then that would be enough. Little sister here has always been embarrassed of my brother purposely making things difficult for you and so did not know how to open my mouth to ask. Don't worry big sis, this little sister here knows how to repay her saviors. There will come a day where we will repay you for your gratitude." But Ling Chen only laughed it off, "We're sisters, and we value matters of the heart. Less of this talk about repayment, it will only hurt our relationship. However, there's something that I have to tell you beforehand. If little sister cannot achieve it, then we can forget about anything else." Shui Qianmer said, "Big sis, just say the word. If I can do it, I will definitely not shy away from it." A chilly look appeared in Ling Chen's eyes at this moment as she quietly said, "Little sister has also mentioned it. This life and body of mine have long been a possession of my young noble. And as for your brother, hey, you should know that young noble cannot tolerate such matters the most. If the same problem persists in the future, then your elder brother would rather wish that he fell into the hands of his three competitors. We're sisters, so I'll just say this up front, if this continues, then big sister can only apologize to you." Shui Qianmer's face changed, but before she could say a word, Ling Chen continued, "Big sister is also a woman, so I care the most about how the young noble looks at me. Little sister, you have to bear this in mind." Shui Qianmer sighed to herself. How could she not see the love her brother Shui Qianhuan had towards Ling Chen? However, with the single sentence that Ling Chen spoke she knew that her brother did not even stand a chance at all and could not help but feel a little bitter inside her heart. With his life in the dumps, his future bleak and dark, and now having no hope for the love of his life, could her brother really handle all these multiple setbacks at once? She originally thought of waiting for Shui Qianhuan to return before going over to persuade Ling Chen. Even if it was a hypocritical show of affection to console him, it would still allow her elder brother to feel a lot better. However, now that Ling Chen had already stated such a term, If her brother continued to foolishly anger this powerful assistant, incurring her wrath, then her brother would merely be sending himself to his own grave. A clamor sounded from afar, followed by the footsteps of someone hastily running over. Moments later, the voice of Shui Qianru's serving girl, "Dear," could be heard saying, "Missy, good news, young noble. He is already back." While the content of her phrase sounded like good news, the worry and fright in her tone could not be masked, as though she had seen something frightening. Shui Qianru's heart was filled with joy upon hearing that her beloved elder brother was back, and she immediately rushed to the front door. However, what greeted her left her in shock. In the courtyard were two human-shaped figures completely covered in blood, as though on their last breaths, having difficulty even standing. One of them was her elder brother, Shui Qianhuan. How did brother get such grievous wounds? Shui Qianru immediately commanded people to carry her brother into her room, before asking the maids to fetch some hot water as well as prepare some medicine. In Northern Wei, our tracks were spotted, and we were besieged by the Yu family, who pursued us for 1,000 miles. The only person who was fortunate enough to still escape with his life intact, Shui 7, recounted the incident as his body trembled in fear. While he managed to escape, his injuries were not light, with serious internal injuries plaguing him as well. Ling Chen only stood coldly in the room as she observed the wretched states of the two. Her brows were slightly furrowed, but she did not say a word, turning around instead to walk out. She had already walked to the doorstep when Shui Qianhuan's voice was heard calling out, Miss Ling. You're here. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Have you been well?" Ling Chen slightly turned around. Behind her, Shui Qianhuan had ignored his own body to struggle up on the bed, his eyes blazing as he stared at Ling Chen, as though a drunken man seeing wine. With the exertion his wounds opened up once again, causing thin streams of blood to leak out. Ling Chen however replied in an indifferent tone, "Many thanks to young Master Shui for the concern. I'm quite well, young Master, be at ease and treat your injuries." The moment she finished speaking, she turned and left, not even sparing him another glance. Shui Qianhuan only let out a sad sigh, before crashing back onto the bed with a bang. In that instant, he felt as though his heart had shattered, every hope of his turning into dust. Calling him young Master Shui was as good as sending Shui Qianhuan from heaven to hell. This one sentence allowed him to understand his current circumstances. Back then, he was full of mettle, disdaining all with contempt, but now, what right did he have to beg such a fairy-like lady for her love? Shui Qianru looked at her elder brother with pity, suddenly feeling powerless. At this point, she acutely felt that it was the wrong choice for the both of them to have come to the Heavenly Star continent. While it was true that Shui Qianhuan had walked into a dead end in his love life, probably unable to extricate himself in this life, what about herself? Wasn't she the exact same situation? That person. Since when had he ever placed her within his eyes? Both brother and sister could be said to be suffering the same fate, right? Shui Qianru let out a self-deprecating smile, but upon thinking of how Ling Tian had tenderly kept the jade she passed him into his bosom, she could not help but blush as she secretly thought, I've already passed you my pledge of love, so how could I get married to someone else? However, this annoying guy is just so insensitive. Despite me liking you so much, where have you placed me in your heart? I've even gone to great lengths to get close to Ling Chen and Yu Bingyan. Bah, what am I thinking about? If one were to talk about Qianru's marriage, the biggest problem would actually be the fact that she had to forsake her family. Shui Qianru could not help but feel a little sour at that fact. It was not that she had no hope of getting married, but rather that the choices were equally heavy. One side was her loved one, but how could she forsake the family which had always been ranked first in her heart? This would be akin to cutting up one's intestines and organs. Missy, the hot water is ready. Should we apply the medication to young Master? Dear's voice sounded beside her, startling Shui Qianru out of her reverie. She hurriedly agreed before walking over to her brother's side. On this same night, 10 or so experts remaining from the Nan Gong family disguised themselves as merchants, soundlessly slipping into Sky-bearing Empire, with the aim of getting close to the Ling family courtyard. Within the courtyard, Ling Tian was clothed completely in black as he silently stood by the door, looking at Ling Chi practicing his swordplay. Having suffered such a serious injury, his face still bore a telltale paleness from the severe loss of blood, but his aura was completely restrained within him, and even the killing intent he normally exuded had been completely kept hidden. If one did not know who Ling Tian was, they would naturally mistake him for someone else. Originally, Ling Chi and the rest thought that his cultivation had dropped due to his grievous wounds, but none of them realized that after so many life and death battles, Ling Tian had made a qualitative breakthrough and had reached the first stage of completely restraining one's aura within themselves. "Eh? Isn't this little Jian?" A clear teasing voice suddenly sounded. Ling Tian's face unconsciously twitched. Not this demoness again. Chapter 489, Keeping Watch Secretly. From Bright Jade City until Sky-bearing City, Ling Tian had suffered greatly in the hands of Li Zhu plenty of times. This demoness had far too many tricks up her sleeves and they were all too brutal. This was the first time that Ling Tian was able to find someone with comparable means to his young noble. In fact, she even exceeded his young noble in certain areas. She was just too frightening, and even the cool Ling Tian was pranked by Li Zhu to the point he almost wanted to cry. There was one time where he refused to drink the medicine because Li Zhu pranked him by adding an additional ingredient into his medicine, Chinese gold thread. The feeling when drinking it is one worse than death. At that time, Ling Tian would rather die than drink it, but Li Zhu used a single trick to force Ling Tian to drink it obediently. Furthermore, after drinking the medicine, he even had to praise it for being extremely delicious. Miss Li brewed 2 bowls of medicine. She added Chinese gold thread in one, and for the other bowl, she added a few live earthworms and small young snakes. She even dug out some residue from a horse's mouth and put it into the medicine. She then forced Ling Tian to make a choice between the bowls of medicine while pinching this first pavilion head's nose. As such, Ling Tian had no choice but to submit. It wasn't that Ling Tian didn't want to retaliate, but the fact that Li Zhu was pretty strong. It was impossible for the injured Ling Tian to be a match for her. However, could Ling Tian possibly be a match for her even if he was fully recovered? Ling Tian didn't have much confidence in that either. Since he didn't have the heart and strength, he could only make the wise choice to submit. So what if he was the first pavilion head? Wasn't he a human too? When it was time for him to submit, he would still have to submit. A good man will not fight a lady. Ling Tian could only console himself with those words. Currently, every time Ling Tian saw Li Zhu's figure, he would subconsciously shiver as though he had just seen a ghost in broad daylight. He was never that frightened even when seeing Ling Tian. Hearing the other party calling him Little Jian, he could not help but snort and glare at Li Zhu with overwhelming killing intent. "Do not provoke me again. If not, I will be unable to control myself from killing you when my injuries are better." "Kill me?" Li Zhu seemed to have heard a huge joke and began laughing hysterically. "Ha ha ha ha, I am really afraid. Please don't kill me, alright, I am only a weak lady." Ling Tian grunted angrily and turned his head around. At the same time, he came to a conclusion in his heart: regardless of who this weak lady was to their young noble and whether or not she will become his young noble's lady, he must definitely beat her into submission once after his injuries were better to vent his anger. In this period of time, this #1 assassin in the world had almost cried from her tortures. Poor Ling Tian. Up until now, he did not understand the depths of this demoness's martial arts. She was an expert who was just as perverse as his young noble. However, it wouldn't be too long before he truly smashed his head until his skull cracked. At this very moment, Ling Tian was already moving in that direction. Earnestly and excitedly. Poor child. Li Zu chuckled and looked at the dumbstruck Ling Chi by the side. "Little Jian, I will let you know that a weak lady cannot be bullied either." She then turned around and walked towards the secret chamber of the courtyard. Ever since she arrived, Li Zu had hid in the secret chamber to digest all of Ling Tian's plans and forces. Almost every day, she would be greeted by something shocking, and after a few days, Li Zu was already numb to this feeling of shock. She never imagined that Ling Tian would be able to create such a huge force single-handedly with little to no foundation. The breadth and variety of his forces, as well as the depths of his plans, had awed Li Zu completely. Li Zu was certain that if she were to activate all of the forces that she had come into contact with so far, the direction of the winds would definitely change. The strength of Ling Tian's forces was more than sufficient to wipe out any small empire in the Heavenly Star continent. But just how did Ling Tian accomplish this? How did he accomplish this in less than 20 years? If Li Zu was in Ling Tian's shoes, while it wouldn't be easy for her to accomplish such feats, it wasn't impossible either. However, the most challenging part was the fact that Ling Tian had to act like a profligate son while secretly developing a force capable of rivaling an empire. This was unimaginable. Furthermore, he did it in such a short period of time. Just what kind of intelligence does he need to accomplish this? Li Zu was completely baffled. Besides that, Ling Tian was still able to achieve such heights in his martial arts despite expending so much effort to build up his forces. If she was Ling Tian, even if she could split herself into two and had twice the amount of effort to spend, she would still not be able to accomplish such a feat. She could not help but lament to herself, "Even though we are both transmigrators, why is the difference between us so huge? Could it be that I am truly incomparable to him? Has the gap between us widened even further in this world?" After understanding all of these, Li Zu chose to adopt the same method of control without a trace of hesitation, to control everything in the dark. She would definitely not replace Ling Chen's current position, and even if she wanted to replace Ling Chen, no one, including Ling Tian, would agree to that. Ling Chen was after all the lady who had followed Ling Tian for the longest period of time. Her status was deeply rooted and there was no one capable of shaking it. This was something that Li Zu could strongly feel ever since she entered the courtyard. At the same time, it was also because Li Zu truly understood Ling Tian's intentions. That was for her to become Ling Tian's trump card before the situation in the world was set. Ling Tian had already revealed his own strength, and he needed someone to keep watch in the dark. Li Zu was undoubtedly the best choice. Thus, Li Zu decided her own position. She wouldn't fight with anyone over anything but stand behind Ling Tian and help watch over his family. It was enough for her to just keep herself, the final and strongest trump card, hidden. At the very most, she would give Ling Tian some suggestions or provide some aid to Ling Tian when he was too busy and unable to handle matters. However, the world would only see that there are three people ruling over the courtyard: Ling Tian, Ling Chen, and Ling Jian. There would never be a Li Zu. Thus, Li Zu acted in an extremely low-profile manner, and even the upper echelons of the courtyard did not know of her existence or had only seen her once. They did not know what her background or purpose was, and she had disappeared into the courtyard as though she had never appeared before. If Ling Tian was to know about Li Zu's actions, he would definitely clap his hands in praise. 3 days later. Dawn. Shui entered the Ling family courtyard with a face full of worry, requesting to see Ling Chen. "They will arrive in Sky Bearing at noon," Shui said worriedly. "I will have to welcome them at that time." Ling Chen raised her head up with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. "Oh? Why is second sister so worried because of a few men? Relax. There is nothing that impossible in the world, and if younger sister doesn't adjust her mental state, it will be even more difficult for you to face those unwanted guests." Shui nodded her head in gratitude. Ling Chen suddenly asked, "How about I follow you to welcome them?" If you go alone, will. She immediately understood what Ling Chen was worried about, and Shui Qian forced a smile. Don't worry. I am a lady after all, and they do not consider me to be their competition. Thus, they will not do anything to me. Even if they will fight their own brothers, they will not touch a lady like me. A sharp glare shone in Ling Chen's eyes and she began to chuckle. Little sister's words make sense. Maybe I was thinking too much. It is only because you care for my safety. Am I not the same as well? Shui Qian said with gratitude. After they arrive, while they will not do anything to me, my brother. Ling Chen smiled. Don't worry, I will let Ling Qi bring a few men at that time. Even if we are only in a temporary alliance, they will still have to give us some face in the heavenly star continent. Thank you, elder sister, for your kindness. Looking at Shui Qian leaving hastily, Ling Chen's eyes were filled with a profound gaze. Are all of you finally here? We can wait no longer. Thinking about what Shui Qian said previously, Ling Chen let out a sneer. So what if you are a lady? Will you really not pose any competition in the Shui family? Will you have no hope to inherit the Shui family? If all of the direct descendants in the younger generation die, what would happen? Ever since Ling Tian left, Ling Chen had racked her brains for the Ling family courtyard and target in her heart. Every step she took and every word she spoke was calculated carefully, and she would think through things repeatedly to prevent herself from missing anything. Under such circumstances, Ling Chen's improvement was undeniably huge. In just a short 3 months, Ling Chen had grown from being a lass by Ling Tian's side to an eligible leader. However, such a life was something that Ling Chen did not like. In fact, she was rather tired of such a life. The thing which she wanted to do most was to stand behind her beloved man silently and share with him his joy and sorrows. Regardless if it was the authority of the heavens or the allure of riches, it was incomparable to standing behind her young noble and being a lass who didn't need to bother about anything. That was the most fortunate and blessed lifestyle. Ling Chen looked towards the horizon with cloudy eyes. Young noble, I am thinking of you. Ling Chen is thinking of you. Are you fine? Chapter 490, Guests from Heavenly Wind. Translator, Chachu. Turn editor, Rock, David. The midday sun shone down relentlessly as Ling Chen stood at the hilltop, gazing at the roads below. Her current position was a covert one, able to cover the entire view of the road, yet not allowing anyone below to notice her presence. Unless one ascended the hill and combed the area, no one would be able to discover her surveillance. However, in order to comb this hill, one would minimally require a force of 1,000 strong in order to be effective. While the Shui family entourage was comprised of experts, their population was definitely below 1,000. In another hour at most, the Shui family from Heavenly Wind Continent would pass by here on their way to sky-daring. Ling Chen wanted to know just what sort of trash would arrive this time around. Would any of them have the ability to go against the Yu family experts present in sky-daring? Once they entered the city, their first task would definitely be to hide a certain portion of their forces in preparation to be a trump card. Ling Chen was unwilling to let such a hidden card exist, and thus she had to take the chance to analyze the complete battle strength of their enemy. This was her motive for coming here. Following by her side was a lady dressed like a servant girl. She looked ordinary in all aspects, as though she was someone who possessed no martial arts background. Compared with the elegant and outstanding peerless talent who was Ling Chen, she paled even more in comparison. However, if one gazed across the entire hilltop, there were only the two of them. Was it too careless of the overseer of the current Ling family courtyard to go out without guards? To those with evil intentions, this might be the best opportunity. So long as they could kill Ling Chen right now, then the entire Ling family courtyard would end up in chaos, hitting hard on Ling Tian's forces. This would lead to irreparable damages. The ground trembled a little, causing Ling Chen's brows to jump up as she indifferently spoke, "They're coming." But the servant girl smiled instead, "But they're not here yet." This caused Ling Chen to crack into a smile as well as she replied, "They'll definitely come, and in fact, very soon. Such an opportune chance, even if it was us, we would do the same." The servant girl tittered as well, "Yep, I believe that they'll arrive soon. After all, they're more anxious than you can ever be. And besides, if they were to miss this chance, they would not know how long they would have to wait until they can catch you working on your own again. The folly of mortals, how could an obvious chance not have any sort of traps hidden within?" A smirking expression appeared in Ling Chen's eyes, as she praised, "Sister's scheme is indeed profound. For the next step, are you planning to deploy the troops to the south?" Ling Chen actually addressed the servant girl as sister. The servant girl lifted up her head. There was none of the gratitude on her face when faced with a superior, but instead an extraordinary penetrative gaze that shot out from her eyes. If Ling Tian was present he would have gotten a shock, for that was the great Miss Li Zhu. She only leisurely replied, "Not announcing before warning will lead one to fall for schemes in the end. Since we are going to attack, we have to do it openly and through the proper channels, or else it will be taken as an offense. The other influences will be able to use this offense as an excuse to attack us instead, hence not only must one have the ambition and ability, one also must have an excuse to go to war. It does not matter if the excuse is acceptable or has a basis." Ling Chen smiled in response, "What sister is really worried about isn't the various powers, right? But rather, it is the sentiments of the people from all over the world." A gleam of intelligence shone out from Li Zhu's eyes, as she took over, "Since we want to start a war, then we will need to consider the sentiments of the public. Merely focusing on barbarically forcing our way to hegemony will only result in many problems, big or small, even if we unify the lands in the end. What we should do is take the chance while we are conquering the lands to bring the sentiments of the public towards us. That is far more troublesome and complicated." The crashing sounds grew closer, as a great number of troops slowly closed in towards the path beside the cliff. At the forefront, urging her horse on, was the little princess of the Shui family, Shui. One could see that her face was split currently between fear, anxiety, and anger, as well as a tinge of resentment and frustration. Beside her, seated on 3 huge horses, were handsome-looking youths. All 3 of them had on expressions of arrogance, and following them were over 10 elders, dressed in black and silently following behind, but casting their wary eyes all around their surroundings. Behind them were actually more horses as well as 4 chariots. This was a little out of her expectations. One had to know that when the Shui family wanted to invite their members over, all of the war horses were provided by Ling Chen from the Ling family. The report from Shui mentioned that roughly 500 members were coming over, and so Ling Chen prepared an excess of 600. However, the facts in front of Ling Chen showed differently. How were there only 500 men present? It was closer to 1,000 men. Going so far as to hide her family's troop strength even in their own report to their own family, what was the Shui family trying to achieve? Seeing the slowly passing troop of Shui family experts, those burly men squeezing in 2s or 3 onto a horse with a discomfited expression, a sneer appeared in the corners of Li Zhu's mouth. She turned to Ling Chen, "Little sister indeed has godly calculation abilities, to actually have predicted that the people from the Shui family did not come with good intentions. It seems like that's the case right now." "This did not come from me," Ling Chen gave a dry laugh, "but rather, young noble had long instructed that if anything untoward happened, we must be prepared to deal with more than 2 times the number of troops. Only then can we rest easy at night. This is because any sort of high-leveled opponent would definitely have some sort of trump card, and when they go against another expert, what they're actually comparing is the trump cards of each party." Within Li Zhu's eyes appeared a hint of suppressed laughter as she muttered, "Once bitten, twice shy." Because of her whisper, Ling Chen could not catch her words and ended up asking, "What did sister say?" "Nothing much. Li Zu's clear gaze refocused on the troops slowly passing by below them, scrutinizing every single expert with her divine sense. It was only after a long while that she gave a big sigh. The capital of the Shui family is indeed huge. To have at least 10 people in the Xiantian realm, there are even 2 or 3 of them whose skills are not below that of you and Ling Tian. Ling Chen nodded her head in response. That only makes sense. They've come so far into skybearing and would definitely have some sort of preparations, or else it would not justify them coming over. However, why does sister not compare herself with them? Do you disdain them as below you? Li Zu angrily huffed. That fellow made me promise that if there was no emergency, I would not be allowed to take action. If it wasn't for this promise, then just based off my own strength, I could make all these promising elites all be buried right here on this cliff. I don't know what that guy is driving at, but he seems to have driven his brain nuts. Just your own strength? You can annihilate all 1,000 of them. Ling Chen stared open-mouthed in shock at Li Zu, who was beside her, fright displayed in her eyes. Just by looking, and using the senses of a martial arts expert, Ling Chen had long found out that this bunch of people below her could not be provoked easily. Just by talking about strength, even if Ling Tian, Ling Jian, Ling Chen, and Li Zu combined hands, they might not have a great chance of success. However, Li Zu now was saying that based on her own strength, she could wipe out all of them. Even if it was Heavenly Justice himself, he probably would not have that much strength, right? Having interacted with her for a time, Ling Chen was clear that Li Zu was not someone who liked to brag. Just what sort of frightening methods did she have in order to secure such a frightening victory? This was Ling Chen's biggest question. Hearing her speak, it seemed like Ling Tian was unwilling for her to use such methods. Since she possessed such great strength, able to annihilate so many people in a go and yet protect herself, then why did the young noble not agree to her participation? Was there something odd about this? From below the cliff came hearty laughter. Oh? Seems like the young master is still recovering from his wounds. The speaker dragged out the 2 words young master, as though hinting at something different, and one could hear the ridicule in his words. Shui Qian immediately turned her head back, looking at the youth dressed in black and angrily saying, "Why? You have something to say?" Ha ha ha. The youth acted as though there was nobody else present, immediately bursting into laughter. I remember someone bragging during the elders' meeting that he would go over to Heavenly Star and flip the entire place upside down, beating the Yu family black and blue, allowing our Shui family to have a stronghold within that couldn't be taken down. Ha ha ha. Why is it that without even a year passing, he's lying on the bed just like a dying dog? So where is the unbreakable fortress he promised? Where is the Yu family being beaten black and blue that he promised? The youth's words were extremely acidic and cutting, his words extremely grating as it fell onto the ears of others. Shui Qian was so angry that her face turned green, but just as she was about to retort, another youth took the chance to jump in as he laughed. Qian Hai, this part you're probably unaware. You must know that the Heavenly Star continent is full of illustrious spirits, to the point that the #1 profligate can also turn into some immense expert in front of the sister of our young master. Furthermore, there are so many profligates all over the place in skybearing that even if our entire family came over, we probably can't even fight them. The fact that young master and sister can survive in this place can already be said to be not easy. You don't have to be too harsh on them, as this will affect our family's unity. Ha ha ha. This person's words were even more loaded, with a weird tone, now high then low, as though singing a song. However, the laugh and his words all were dripping with disdain. So it's like that. The final youth, who was seated on horseback, used a tone of realization as he replied, "If you put it that way, then young master and his sister have already done a great job for our Shui family. Such a glorious achievement, who in our family could compare? Respect, respect. I'm deeply in respect. Indeed, the children of our family head, living up to the name of twin pillars of heavenly wind. Brothers, we all must learn from them.
Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation. And press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.